Chapter 226. Who is it? Come out. Chongming Demon Monarch cried out anxiously. When they came in, they did not see anyone else. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. Why did this voice sound so familiar? He turned around and saw a translucent figure flying out from the darkness. It was a soul. He could not see the face clearly, but he could roughly see the figure. Diablo, you are not dead yet? Zhou Xuanji asked with a mocking tone. I just happened to bump into you. Diablo. The others became anxious immediately. The ancient Diablo was someone even more brutal than Xian Xianghua. He was also the mortal enemy of the Hegemon Sword Emperor. The Diablo's soul flew over and begged, as long as you bring me out, I will give you an serendipity. Don't worry, I'm already at the end of my life. Even if I escape, I can only enter the cycle of reincarnation and reincarnate. I will no longer be the Diablo. Now, he did not even dare to call himself this king. Jiang Shui asked with a frown, that's strange. With Xian Xianghua's power, why would she allow a remnant soul like you to stay? The Diablo said furiously, that unfilial son is either busy with his secret meeting or Tanhua sex affairs. How would he have the time to find me? Secret meeting? Jiang Shui glanced at Zhou Xuanji intently. Zhou Xuanji faked a cough and stared at the Diablo. Sorry, for Xian Xianghua, I cannot let you go, even if there is serendipity. After that, he came up to the Diablo and grabbed him with his right hand. Just when he was about to take out his legendary sword, his palm heated up and sucked the Diablo's soul into his palm. What are you doing? The Diablo cried out in fear. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He did not understand the situation either. In that instant, he realized something. The Tianxia map could absorb souls. With just a thought, the Diablo's soul would dissipate completely. However, it was impossible for Xian Xianghua to allow the Diablo to survive until now. It must have been done on purpose. After the thought, he sucked the Diablo's soul into the Tianxia map instead of killing it. The Tianxia map could temporarily suppress souls. Let's go. Zhou Xuanji carried Jiang Shui and leaped down. The others followed closely behind. Chongming Demon Monarch carried the red Qilin, and Big and Small Air hesitated for a while before they followed. Following this, Zhou Xuanji took out a wooden raft from his storage ring. The group sat on it and floated down the river. The underground river was wide and high enough for Big and Small Air to not have to kowtow. Master, are you really going to marry Xian Xianghua? Xiao Jinghong sat down cross-legged and asked. From Zhou Xuanji's words, it was evident that he had accepted Xian Xianghua's favor. The others also looked at him. However, he shook his head. If she can survive, the future is long. It's still too early to talk about marriage. He replied softly. Chongming Demon Monarch and the little black snake widened their eyes. Why? Aren't you afraid that she'll change her mind? The little black snake asked nervously. Once Xian Xianghua had a change of heart and treated them again, would she be cruel to them? Zhou Xuanji looked ahead and said, she treats me well, and I owe her indeed. However, I cannot protect her because of this. After all, she has committed many sins. I hope that from now on, she can do good deeds and accumulate virtue. Only when her murderous intent is gone can we talk about love. Xian Xianghua had killed too many people and had too many enemies. Unlike him, he also had enemies, but he had a clear conscience. It was always others who provoked him, and he never killed the innocent. Humans were selfish. As long as it was someone they cared about, they could tolerate all kinds of things, but they would not allow others to bully them. Zhou Xuanji wanted to protect Xian Xianghua, and he knew that this was selfish. However, this was human. It was because of the 7 emotions and 6 desires that one became a human. That's right. Instead of letting Xian Xianghua die, it's better to let her renounce evil and become a good person. With her ability, if she can protect the human clan, she will be able to save many people, even more than the people she has killed. Good and evil can never be directly defined. Daoya old man said as he stroked his beard. He did not hate Xian Xianghua that much. When humans kill demons, no matter how many demons they kill, they won't be treated as a sin by others. This is the theory of race. Whether it's right or wrong, in my opinion, everyone is guilty. There's a saying in Buddhism, lay down the butcher's knife and you will become a Buddha. It doesn't mean that laying down the butcher's knife is considered good, because the responsibility of becoming a Buddha is far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The group did not fully understand. There were too many things in the world that could not be explained with logic. Right and wrong were not all black and white. If Xian Xianghua turned over a new leaf and protected the human clan, she might be able to save the human clan in the future. If she died, and the human clan did not have enough power, who could guarantee that the human clan would not be destroyed? Every person, every decision, could change many things, far beyond his own expectations. That's true. She hasn't lost her mind to the point of killing. Back in that inn, the people she killed were not good people. Who doesn't have hands stained with blood? How could she open a shop in the wilderness? Chongming Demon Monarch nodded. He despised those hypocritical people the most. If humans killed demons, it was justice. If demons ate humans, it was evil. Why? If she's really bloodthirsty, with her cultivation, she could kill wherever she goes. In the past 10,000 years, the number of humans would be less than half of what it is now. She was once the top cultivator in the world after all. Look at the evil lord and Ta Tianchen. They killed many people too. Why are they still alive? How many human and demon lives did Xuanhe divine monk accumulate to become the top monk? Who can guarantee that the people he killed were all evil? The group looked at Chongming Demon Monarch in astonishment. This old demon could still make such a logical argument? The little black snake sighed in amazement. Old bull, you hide your strength well. Even the way Zhou Xuanji looked at Chongming Demon Monarch changed. Daoya old man said with a smile, indeed. In the world, Xian Xianghua might not even be in the top 10 for killing the most people. Who asked her to offend so many people? Because of that, she became a peerless evil demon. What I admire about her the most is that she never kills mortals. She never kills women or children, unless they offend her. Zhou Xuanji had no doubt about this. At least, he did not see Xian Xianghua do such things. She treated Jiang Shui well too. With her methods, she could totally enslave him and Jiang Shui. Beishao Wangjian opened his eyes wide and asked, why do I feel that she's not evil beyond redemption? These people's eloquence and logic were too impressive. Daoya old man shook his head and said, she's an evil person indeed. But evil doesn't stop at killing. The distinction between good and evil is in the governance of mortal kingdoms. The cultivation world is extraordinary, and the powerful rule. Which cultivator has not killed before? Think about it carefully. With Xian Xianghua's power, could she have nurtured so many powerful cultivators from when they were weak until now? She's just too arrogant. If it were someone else, he or she could have eradicated them and dominated the world. Xuanhe divine monk and I were not killed by her back then. We were just toyed with by her. Xuanhe divine monk had such a great hatred because his revered teacher insisted on eliminating the evil. As he said this, he sighed. The group fell into deep thought. Today's argument made them feel the same way. What was justice and what was evil? Zhou Xuanji said, in conclusion, don't kill innocent people. Don't offend others for no reason, but don't let others harm you. Cultivators like us must act according to our hearts. His expression was strange. Hold on. Wasn't it talking about Xian Xianghua? How did it become chicken soup? Smiley face, smiley face. Chapter 227. Jiang Shui tilted her head and glanced at everyone. She sighed and said, I feel like you guys know a lot of things. Why didn't I think so before? The river surged. Because of the discussion about life, everyone was no longer nervous. Xiao Jinghong and Han Shenbua sat at the edge of the raft, listening to the lecture while keeping an eye on their surroundings. Zhao Zongjian rubbed his chin and muttered, "If our enemies are understood and protected like this, should we let go of our hatred? In that case, does it count as following your heart?" He wasn't trying to argue, he was just curious. He liked this kind of discussion very much as it could help him comprehend the sword Tao. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "The mortal world respects the good and repels the evil, while the cultivation world respects the weak and the strong preys on the weak. You are powerful, so you can set the rules. If you are the heavens, you can set the rules for all living beings. If you are strong enough, you can protect whoever you want to protect. If you are not strong enough, even if the person you want to protect is righteous and pure, what can you do if the strong want to kill him? The strong reign supreme." This was the world of cultivation. "I hope that you won't kill innocent people. It's good to do good, but you can't do evil," Zhou Xuanji instructed. He was afraid that the others would misunderstand and act recklessly in the future. Daoya old man nodded and looked at Zhou Xuanji approvingly. "Xuanji, grand teacher was right about you. You are a man of principle. If someone like you becomes the top cultivator in the world, the human race will be fortunate. If the evil lord and Ta Tianchen become the top cultivator in the world, the human race will be in trouble, and so will the world." Jiang Shui hugged Zhou Xuanji's shoulder and smiled proudly. "Xuanji has been doing good deeds since he was young. He has saved many people." The others nodded and could not help but think of Zhou Xuanji's original title. Unparalleled Sword God Zhou. Everyone began to talk cheerfully and wittily. The atmosphere was no longer heavy and they began to talk about the past. The flow of the river was very fast, and in a short while, they were far away from the fallen immortal heavenly lake. They encountered many branches of underground rivers and even waterfalls. Fortunately, they were proficient in spells, so they were safe. They began to talk about establishing a sect. Huang Lianxin suggested, "I think the Tanhua sect has completely declined. Why don't we recruit Xian Xianghua? Doesn't she want to be master's wife? Let her become an elder of our sect. That's the world's #1 battle prowess. At the same time, we can restrain her and help her turn over a new leaf." When the others heard this, they all clapped their hands in approval. Daoya old man also thought it was a good idea. Only by giving up on the Tanhua sect would Xian Xianghua be able to change herself. However, after this battle, the world's view of us might change. Daoya old man said meaningfully. In today's world, anyone who was related to the Tanhua sect would be attacked and killed by everyone. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly, "Don't be afraid. Time will prove everything." Daoya old man nodded. He liked how steady and confident Zhou Xuanji was. For the next period of time, they continued to wander in the underground river. According to Xian Xianghua, it would flow all the way to the sea. How far was the distance from the fallen immortal heavenly lake to the sea? Thus, they began to take turns to watch over the situation in all directions while the others cultivated. Because they were constantly in the dark, they were unable to accurately calculate the time. Days passed by. On this day, the red Kirin suddenly started sneezing non-stop. Jiang Shui squatted beside it and asked worriedly, "Is it sick?" Zhou Xuanji said without opening his eyes, "It's a fire qilin. Do you think it will get sick?" As he spoke, he even stretched out his hand and slapped the red Kirin. Jiang Shui glared at him and said, "How can you be so rude?" After that, she began to examine the red Kirin's body. Zhou Xuanji did not take this incident to heart. Because the little guy recovered on the same day. But every few days, the red Kirin would start sneezing again and recover in half an incense's time. Even Daoya old man did not find anything wrong with it. He could only put this matter aside for now. "There's light ahead. We're going out." Han Shenbua cried out excitedly, and the others, who were cultivating, opened their eyes. At this point, the underground river was already considered an underground river. The river was very wide, and there was a ball of light a few thousand meters ahead. With Zhou Xuanji's eyesight, he could already see the seawater. They were finally at the end. The group got up excitedly. "It's my first time seeing the ocean," Huang Lianxin said excitedly. Other than Zhou Xuanji and Daoya Old Man, the others were the same, including Chongming Demon Monarch and the Little Black Snake. The northern wilderness region was vast. From the inland to the seaside, one had to cross mountains and rivers, and it was very difficult to pass through. For ordinary people, even if there were no obstacles, they would not be able to reach the seaside in their lifetime. If not for the fact that the river was fast, they might have to wait for a long time. The ocean is boundless. At the edge of the world, at the edge of the sea. Maybe at the end of the ocean, there's a world even vaster than the northern wilderness region. Daoya Old Man sighed in amazement as he stroked his long beard. He had never tried to cross the ocean in his life. To the northern wilderness region, the ocean represented danger. Humans and demons who went out to sea rarely came back. After leaving the cave, the group flew up and stored the raft so that they could use it again in the future. A big and small air circled in the sky excitedly and roared. The group turned around and saw that the cave was connected to a mountain range. At a glance, the end of the land was filled with tall mountains that reached into the clouds. "Let's stay here for a few days," Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. The others had no objections. With Xian Xianghua's capabilities, if she could escape, she would surely reach Skyfall. They were not in a hurry. This was their life motto. No matter where they were, they must enjoy the scenery along the way and feel the state of the world. "Ha ha ha, Jinghong, let's go catch some fish. Let's see who can catch the biggest fish," Han Shenhua said excitedly, and Xiao Jinghong did not object. Previously, Han Shenhua was ranked first on Great Zhou's hero ranking board, while Xiao Jinghong was ranked third. The two of them had been competing against each other openly and secretly. Until today, they were still competing against each other in terms of cultivation. Huang Lianxin and Jiang Shui held hands and walked toward the beach. Chongming Demon Monarch carried the Little Black Snake in one hand and the Red Qilin in the other. They threw each other on the beach, and those who did not know would think that they had a grudge against each other. Beixiao Wangjian and Zhao Zongjian began practicing their sword techniques. They had not practiced for a long time because it was not convenient to do so on the raft. Zhou Xuanji and Daoya Old Man stood on a reef and looked toward the horizon. "How far is Skyfall Peak from here?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He placed his hands behind his back, looking as old-fashioned as Daoya Old Man. Daoya Old Man shook his head and said, "I still don't know where we are." An old man and a young man stood side by side and looked at the tide. The scene seemed to have frozen. They did not speak anymore and looked into the distance quietly, reminiscing about the past. Half an hour later. "Look! What's that?" Beixiao Wangjian cried out in surprise, and everyone turned to look. A rainbow light descended from the sky, streaked across the horizon, and passed over their heads. The group turned around and looked toward the direction of the rainbow light. Could it be an otherworldly object? It's rare for otherworldly objects to appear in the northern wilderness region. Daoya Old Man mumbled. After that, he began divining with his fingers. PFFTT, he suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. His body went limp, and he fell backward into the seawater. Zhou Xuanji looked at him in astonishment but did not stretch out his hand. Smiley face, smiley face. Chapter 228. Plop. Daoya Old Man fell into the sea, causing the others to look back. The Little Black Snake called out, "Where's that bad old man?" Zhou Xuanji pointed downward and said, "He fell down." Looking at his appearance, it was clear that he had no intention of going into the water to save him. "Then what are you waiting for?" Jiang Shui asked curiously. At this moment, Ada landed and picked up Daoya Old Man with his eagle claws. Ada threw him on the beach, and the others gathered around him. He curled up like a prawn, his limbs trembling, his eyes rolling back as he muttered, "Nightmare. Nightmare." Chongming Demon Monarch kicked his butt and asked, "What are you pretending for?" Zhou Xuanji kicked the old bull's butt and cursed, "Show some respect." After kicking Chongming Demon Monarch away, he walked behind Daoya. "Old man, get up." He frowned and urged. Then, he took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword and stabbed it into Daoya old man's butt. This scene caused the others to widen their eyes. Although they knew the special ability of the Holy Light Redemption Sword, the place where it stabbed, Daoya old man's body twitched. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were no longer white. His limbs were no longer twitching. Zhou Xuanji quickly sheathed his sword and looked calm. After Daoya old man regained his senses, he subconsciously touched his butt. "You hit your butt when you fell just now. Tell me, what did you calculate?" Zhou Xuanji asked hurriedly. Daoya old man had coughed up blood when he divined before, but it had never been this bad. Could it be that the rainbow light from before was not as simple as it seemed? Was it really an otherworldly object? In the northern wilderness region, there were many stories of immortals descending to the mortal world. Most of the immortals who descended to the mortal world were beaten down by others, and their cultivation levels were not as high as before. Even so, they could still move unhindered in the mortal world. Daoya old man stood up and said in a deep voice, "Just now, when I was divining the object from outer space, I saw a person standing on a mountain of corpses. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, there were corpses piled up hundreds of feet high. I saw the corpses of Xuanhe, Xian Xianghua, Huangquan Drake King, Ta Tianchen, Yang Xindi, and even you guys, except for Xuanji." Everyone's hair stood on end when they heard this. Beixiao Wangjian asked anxiously, "Who killed us?" Daoya old man was quite accomplished in fortune-telling, and almost all of his predictions were accurate. Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, Huang Lianxin, Han Shenbua, Chongming Demon Monarch, and the little black snake were all extremely nervous. Zhou Xuanji also frowned, but he did not believe in fate. "I'm not sure. I've never seen him before. I only saw him standing on top of the mountain of corpses." He had a head full of white hair and an extremely ferocious expression. Daoya old man's face was pale as he sighed. Although he had lived for thousands of years, he was still afraid of death. "Then let's go. Since you got this divination from the extraterrestrial object, why don't we go take a look?" For some reason, he thought of the 10,000-year prince that Xian Xianghua had mentioned. When the others heard this, they all nodded. If they didn't figure it out, they wouldn't be able to eat and sleep in peace. It just so happens that that thing is flying inland. "We're going in the same direction," Han Shenbua said. Then, he turned around. Everyone rode on their swords and chased after him. On the way, they kept asking Daoya old man questions. Who wouldn't be afraid after learning that they were going to die? They wanted to ask for more details to prepare themselves. "Why isn't Master here? Could it be that Master is someone who can fight against that person?" Xiao Jinghong asked curiously. With Zhou Xuanji's personality, if they died, he would surely avenge them, no matter how powerful the enemy was. Daoya old man frowned and said, "I'm not sure either. I haven't been able to divine this kid's fate." The others looked at Zhou Xuanji. "Don't worry, as long as I'm here, none of you will die. Even if you die, I'll go to the Yellow Springs and enter the cycle of reincarnation to find you one by one." Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, and everyone was no longer nervous. If someone else had said this, they would have scoffed. But if Zhou Xuanji said it, they would believe him. This was a trust built over a long period of time. Daoya old man stared at him and fell into deep thought. He flew all the way, leaping over mountains one after another. The sun set and the moon rose. The sun rose in the east. At the first glimmer of dawn, everyone finally found a huge pit. The pit was located in the middle of the forest, and the surrounding trees were toppled over. There were even some charred wood. The crater was 100 feet wide and 30 feet deep, as if it had been created by a meteor crashing into the ground. At the bottom of the crater, everyone saw thin purple crystals. Daoya Old Man waved his right hand and pieced the purple crystals together. They formed half an eggshell, and seeing this, everyone felt a chill down their spines. Was it really a spirit from beyond the heavens? There's an extremely powerful aura in the surroundings. That thing should have left not long ago, Chongming Demon Monarch said with a frown. Chongming Demon Monarch said with a frown. There was fear in his eyes. No matter if it was a human or a demon, they would all feel fear toward the unknown. I think we should forget about it. Let's go find Skyfall first and settle down before cultivating, Jiang Shui suggested. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, and the others nodded. They looked at Zhou Xuanji. All right, only if we are powerful enough can we deal with everything, Zhou Xuanji agreed. Following this, Daoya Old Man began to divine the direction of Skyfall. After a while, everyone set off on their journey. After they left, a figure walked out from the shadows of the forest. It was a young man. His hair was white, and his skin was slightly shriveled. He wore simple clothes made from wolf skin and stood barefooted. He looked up with his empty eyes and mumbled, "The aura of the Tianxia map. That thing has appeared again." A month later, Zhou Xuanji, who was resting under a tree, suddenly heard the sword spirit's voice. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 24 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner obtained, gold, Great Compassion Sword, Amethyst, Abyss Demon Sword, Sword Master Haki. The two legendary swords were of high grades. Their information appeared before his eyes: sword name, Great Compassion Sword grade, gold description, a sword of Buddhism. It gathers the sadness of the world and can transfer it to others. Sword name, Abyss Demon Sword grade, amethyst description, an evil sword from the depths of the abyss. It was born after absorbing countless demonic chi, evil chi, and resentment. Once used, the murderous intent will rise. They all looked good and did not disappoint him. He turned his attention to Sword Master Haki. Could it be a sword technique? Sword Master Haki is a divine ability. Once inherited, you can command billions of swords in the world. As long as the opponent's cultivation does not surpass yours, they will not be able to control their own swords. This divine ability consumes soul power. The higher the grade of the swords, the greater the consumption. The sword spirit introduced in his mind, which made him open his eyes wide. Divine ability. What a pretentious divine ability. In the cultivation world, divine abilities were above spells. Very few people could cultivate divine abilities. If one had a divine ability, he or she would be unrivaled and could even become one of the Northern Wilderness top 100. Without hesitation, he chose to inherit Sword Master Haki. Smiley face. Chapter 229. Inheriting a divine ability took a longer time than inheriting a sword technique. The massive amount of memories flowed into Zhou Xuanji's mind, and it felt like his head was going to explode. A powerful gale surrounded his body. The people around him sensed his abnormality and looked over. What is the revered teacher doing? Breaking through? Xiao Jinghong asked curiously. Zhou Xuanji's cultivation had far surpassed his, and he could not see through him. Daoya Old Man said in surprise, "No, he's not breaking through. He seems to be in an epiphany." Epiphany? The others gathered around him. Zhou Xuanji's talent was already devilish enough. He could gain epiphany just by sitting down. That was too much of a blow. Today is Xuanji's 24th birthday. Jiang Shui said coldly, which brightened everyone's eyes. Every birthday, Zhou Xuanji would receive a new sword and a new sword technique. Although they did not understand why, they understood that Zhou Xuanji might become more powerful again. They began to look forward to it. "Old man, how long until Skyfall?" The little black snake shouted from the tree. His tone was impolite. Daoya Old Man replied, We will arrive in about half a month. Don't be scared to death when we reach Skyfall. When he mentioned Skyfall, his face was filled with respect. It was one of the tallest mountains in the northern wilderness region after all. The place closest to the sky. The little black snake did not care about it but did not continue to ask. An hour later. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes suddenly. His eyes were beaming with radiance. His entire temperament suddenly changed. Everyone looked at him. Jiang Shui smiled and said, Xuanji, happy 24th birthday. Zhou Xuanji taught her to wish each other a happy birthday every year. You too. Happy 28th birthday. Zhou Xuanji got up with a smile, but she rolled her eyes in return. Women are always 18 years old. After he said this, Zhou Xuanji felt a little dazed. This girl was already 28 years old. On Earth, she would be considered a leftover woman. But in the northern wilderness region, she was still a young girl. Of course, this girl's character was still immature. Master, quickly display it for us to see. Zhao Zongjian said excitedly. It must be a new sword technique. In his eyes, Zhou Xuanji was already a treasure trove. He wanted to learn all kinds of sword techniques. However, he did not have the supreme legendary sword system. No matter how talented he was, he had to train slowly. Zhou Xuanji smiled mysteriously and said, we'll talk about it later. Let's go. Sword Master Haki allowed his control over all his swords to soar. Although his cultivation level didn't increase, his soul force was greatly enhanced. Coupled with his divine art, his overall strength couldn't be compared to before. Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, the others did not force him and continued to rush toward Skyfall. Along the way, there were more and more tall mountains, and more demonic beasts. Their strength was also gradually increasing, and it felt like they were deep in the territory of the demonic beasts. There was a mountain range with undulating forests. There was a huge mountain that pierced through the clouds, connecting heaven and earth. Skyfall. In front of this mountain, all the other mountains in the world seemed short, like saplings surrounding a giant tree in the sky. Skyfall took up hundreds of kilometers of land, and even though it became narrower the further one went, it did not feel like an all. From a distance, it looked like a heavenly pillar, the top of which reached the clouds, making it impossible for anyone to tell how tall Skyfall was. Rumble, the ground suddenly started to tremble as countless demonic beasts galloped out of the forest like a massive army. In front of them, there were cultivators flying on swords, darting through the forest. They were extremely fast, like sharp arrows. The leader was a one-eyed man. He was skinny and had tan skin. He gritted his teeth and said, "Everyone, hold on. We have to escape before the 8th stage demon appears." His white robe was stained with blood. Evidently, he had just experienced a fierce battle. Yes. Hundreds of cultivators shouted in unison. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they were filled with fear and anger. They were disciples of the Hegemon sword sect, and they had come under orders to go to Skyfall. However, they had encountered an accident, and over 1,000 disciples had died or been injured. Now, there were only 300 or so left. Ha ha ha. Where do you think you can run to? Arrogant laughter sounded out as a domineering figure leapt out from the middle of Skyfall's mountain. He wore a robe made of tiger skin, and his brown hair danced in the wind. His face was valiant, and there were 2 sharp fangs in his mouth and 6 thick tails behind him. He quickly landed on a mountain in front of the cultivators, causing the mountain to collapse. Rocks flew everywhere, and a wild gale swept out in all directions. The one-eyed man hurriedly stopped, and the sword under his feet appeared in his hand, blocking the wind for him. The surrounding trees were uprooted by the wind, as if doomsday had arrived. The Hegemon sword sect disciples behind him all had expressions of despair. It's over. Liuwu Demon Wolf has woken up. What do we do now? Are we really going to die here? Damn it, I can't accept this. Let's fight it out with him. That's right. We're going to die anyway. At the very least, we'll drag someone down with us. The cultivators roared, and their expressions changed as they prepared to fight. The one-eyed man took a deep breath, and his gaze also became fierce. Liuwu demon wolf flew out from the billowing dust, and he had a condescending smile on his face. You trash dared to ascend to Skyfall, and now you want to escape. Your deaths will be the best warning to the world. Liuwu demon wolf savagely laughed. After speaking, he even licked his lips, as if he wanted to eat someone. At that moment, the swords of the hegemon sword sect's 300 cultivators suddenly trembled violently, unable to control themselves. What's going on? The one-eyed man's only eye widened, and his expression was one of terror. The other cultivators were the same. Their swords had been dripped with blood, and they were connected to their bloodlines. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Swish. Swish. Swish, their swords left their hands and flew into the air above the forest. Liuwu demon wolf narrowed his eyes, and he was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he was curious about what these people wanted to do. What are you playing at? A sword formation? Liuwu demon wolf asked in a low voice, a look of disdain in his eyes. No one answered him, because the cultivators were also very terrified. A chill rose from their feet and shot up to their heads. Ha ha ha. A mere wolf demon dares to be so arrogant. From today onwards, Skyfall Peak will be ours. A wild laughter came from behind Liuwu demon wolf. It was Chongming demon monarch. A 7th-rank demon challenging an 8th-rank demon was undoubtedly seeking death. However, Chongming demon monarch did not take Liuwu demon wolf seriously at all. Zhou Xuanji, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others flew over on their swords. All of them were smiling fearlessly, as though they were sword immortals. Liuwu demon wolf turned around and asked with a frown, "Who are you?" The hundreds of swords levitating in the air suddenly charged toward him. They were extremely fast. He was so shocked that he dodged instinctively. However, the swords seemed to be alive and chased after him madly. Everyone was stunned. Chongming demon monarch asked in astonishment, "What's going on? They can deal with it themselves?" He thought that these sword cultivators were already at the end of their rope. Chapter 230. Xiao. Xiao. Swoosh, several hundred swords chased after Liuwu demon wolf, forcing him to circle in the air above the forest. He did not act rashly in case it was a trap. He glanced at Zhou Xuanji, Chongming demon monarch, and the others. He could not see through Daoya old man and Zhou Xuanji, and he could not help but feel fearful. No. It's too dangerous. As Liuwu demon wolf thought to himself, he turned and flew toward Skyfall, quickly disappearing. Hundreds of treasured swords descended as well, landing in front of the hegemon sword sect disciples, causing them to be dumbfounded. All of this was naturally done by Zhou Xuanji. By relying on sword master Haki, he could control other people's swords from a distance. However, the distance could not be too far, so he did not continue to chase after Liuwu demon wolf. Zhou Xuanji brought his group to the hegemon sword sect. "Thank you for your help, brothers." Although the one-eyed man could not understand what had happened, he still politely cupped his fist and greeted Zhou Xuanji and the others. If he guessed correctly, the reason why their swords went berserk earlier was definitely because of this group of people. "Are you fellows from hegemon sword sect?" Xiao Jinghong asked curiously. The hegemon sword sect was a first-rate swordsmanship faction in the northern wilderness region, and they even had hopes of becoming a sacred land. The one-eyed man sheathed his sword and nodded. "I am Qing Qianlong, a disciple of the hegemon sword sect. I led my junior brothers to Skyfall to search for medicinal herbs, but we were unexpectedly attacked by the demons on the mountain. Skyfall has already been taken over by the demons. Damn it." At the end of his sentence, he could not help but grit his teeth. How could he be willing to let so many of his fellow disciples die? Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, Han Shenbua and the rest frowned. Occupied by the demon race? They turned their heads and saw many demons in the forest in the distance watching them. Most of the demons were between the 3rd and 5th stage. It was hard to imagine how many demons were hiding in Skyfall. May I ask which demon clan it is? Chongming Demon Monarch asked. The demon race also had their own factions. Compared to the human race, it was more complicated. Among the demon race, those who occupied a mountain and proclaimed themselves as kings could be considered a force. The mutual deception between demons was less than that between humans, and the killing was more intense. How could an ordinary demon race force dare to make an enemy out of our hegemon sword sect? Naturally, they are the subordinates of that demon race supremacy. Qing Qianlong sighed, his face clouded with worry. The Supreme Demon Lord, Jihuang Demon Lord. Second in the world. The most powerful existence in the entire northern wilderness region. Chongming Demon Monarch and the little black snake widened their eyes. To demons, Jihuang Demon Lord was definitely the pinnacle of their lives. It was like a mortal looking up to an emperor. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. He did not expect Jihuang Demon Lord to already have his eyes on Skyfall. Does Jihuang Demon Lord know about this? Daoya Old Man asked. After all, Jihuang Demon Lord had many experts under him, and it was very likely that his subordinates did it. After all, Jihuang Demon Lord was so powerful that he did not need Skyfall at all. Qing Qianlong gritted his teeth and said, he naturally doesn't know. Otherwise, the demons in this area would be more than 10 times stronger. Even so, they are still his subordinates. Offending these demons is equivalent to offending Jihuang Demon Lord. Although the hegemon sword sect was strong, it was nothing compared to Jihuang Demon Lord. One had to know that the battle that made Jihuang Demon Lord famous was when he fought the 8 sacred grounds alone. He was unparalleled. In the current world, only Sunlight Emperor could suppress him. Even Xian Xianghua was inferior to him in terms of prestige and status. At the very least, no one dared to cause trouble for Jihuang Demon Lord. We're in trouble now. Should we change mountains? Beixiao Wangjian asked. They had already offended enough people, and if they offended Jihuang Demon Lord as well, they would have no place to stand. Both the human and demon races would not tolerate them. Change mountains? Zhou Xuanji frowned. All of the good mountains and lands in the northern wilderness had been taken. Where could they go? After the fallen immortal Heavenly Lake incident, they would no longer be able to stand in the human race. Could it be that they had to go overseas? Change mountains? Do you really want to conquer Skyfall? Qing Qianlong asked, a strange expression on his face. Even without Jihuang Demon Lord, it would be incredibly difficult to conquer Skyfall. There were countless 10,000-year-old demons on the mountain, and there were many natural danger zones that could take people's lives. That's right, the human race hasn't been very peaceful recently. The number 1 genius on the Northern Wilderness Genius ranking, Zhou Xuanji, has been bewitched by Xian Xianghua. Sooner or later, he will become an even greater threat than Xian Xianghua. Chief Monk Xuanhe even said that he would become an existence like the ancient Diablo, Qing Qianlong said as he shook his head, looking quite worried. Everyone's expressions became strange. Daoya Old Man's expression became even more unsightly. He had never thought that Chief Monk Xuanhe would slander Zhou Xuanji like this. They had expected this situation, but they had never thought that it would be even more serious than they had imagined. Zhou Xuanji was going to become a demon even more terrifying than Xian Xianghua? These words were simply too terrifying. Before, I greatly respected Zhou Xuanji, and he even viewed my sex Lin Chang'e as a lifelong enemy. However, it's a pity that he has entered the demonic path, and I feel ashamed of him. Qing Qianlong said indignantly. He was even more furious than when he mentioned the demons on the mountain. Zhou Xuanji did not become angry. As the saying went, the deeper the love, the more severe the responsibility. This old fellow definitely liked him too much. Everyone else became furious. Half blind, what are you talking about? The little black snake said angrily. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others also looked quite unfriendly. The hundreds of cultivators behind Qing Qianlong raised their swords, preparing for battle. I say, Zhou Xuanji, Qing Qianlong said as he frowned. Halfway through his words, he stopped. Wait, could it be? He immediately thought of something and quickly retreated. Jiang Shui looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked, are we still going to conquer this mountain? From a distance, Skyfall looked incredibly grand, and it fit its name so well. As soon as they saw Skyfall, their hearts were moved. If they could establish a sect on Skyfall, how grand would it be? Conquer. Of course we're going to. A lovely laugh suddenly sounded out, causing everyone's expressions to change. They all looked around in delight. Qing Qianlong and the hundreds of hegemon sword sect cultivators felt quite confused. A figure appeared behind Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui out of nowhere, putting a hand on their shoulders. It was Xian Xianghua. Jiang Shui was so scared that her body trembled, while Zhou Xuanji turned and dodged her hand. Xian Xianghua was wearing a veil and a purple dress. She was just as bewitching and gave off an oppressive aura. Her eyes were filled with joy. So you're fine. Daoya old man sighed in amazement. The saying was right, scourges last for 1,000 years. Xian Xianghua glanced at Skyfall and said, since you want this mountain, I'll help you take it. Chongming Demon Monarch said excitedly, that's right, with you here, even if Jihuang Demon Lord comes, we won't be afraid. Qing Qianlong was incredibly shocked. He could already guess Xian Xianghua's identity. His legs trembled and cold sweat covered his body, and he was unable to remain calm. The hegemon sword sect disciples behind him stared with wide eyes. It was the first time they had seen Qing Qianlong lose his composure like this. Xian Xianghua looked at them and said coldly, you people don't know the truth and just go with the flow. You don't deserve to live in this world. After saying this, she walked towards Qing Qianlong and the others. Wait, let them go. Zhou Xuanji hurriedly called out to her, not wanting her to randomly kill people. Xian Xianghua did not stop and said, I don't want to kill them, I just want them to leave behind the hegemon sword sect sword formation. I can't let you save them for nothing. Calm. Miao Shu. Chapter 231. Sword Array. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. He suddenly remembered that he did not have a sword formation. The lethality of a sword formation was generally higher than a sword technique. After all, many swords or people were needed. The hegemon sword sect sword formation was renowned throughout the world. The most famous battle was against the Yao army, where hundreds of thousands of sword xiu lined up in formation. Celestial Dipper of 10,000 Stars formation. The moment the sword array appeared, millions of demons were slain. Blood filled the battlefield, causing hegemon sword sect to rise to become a first-rate faction. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, Beishao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin were looking forward to it. Zhou Xuanji could use dozens of swords, and he alone could form a formation. If he had a sword array, his strength would increase exponentially. What are you trying to do? Qing Qianlong asked in a trembling voice. He didn't dare to flee, nor did he dare to fight. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Even the sect master of the hegemon sword sect had to kneel in front of Xian Xianghua. Didn't you hear what I said? Hand over your sword formation, or I will torture you until you wish you were dead. Xian Xianghua stopped 3 meters in front of him and said coldly. The hundreds of sword cultivators were so frightened by her killing intent that they didn't dare to move. They finally experienced Qing Qianlong's terror. I don't have much patience. If you don't hand it over after 3 counts, I'll skin you alive and pull out your bones. Xian Xianghua said impatiently. Then, she began to count down. Qing Qianlong was so frightened that he knelt on the spot. With a flip of his right hand, a scroll appeared in his hand. He shouted, I'll give. I'll give. His face was filled with terror, and he felt powerless all over. Xian Xianghua took the scroll, scanned it with her divine sense, and nodded with satisfaction. She turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and the others and said, "Let's go up the mountain with me." She leaped into the air, her right foot stepping on Qing Qianlong's head as she used the momentum to step into the air. Zhou Xuanji held Jiang Shue's hand and followed behind. The others followed closely behind. The group of hegemon sword sect disciples fell to the ground in a daze. "Master! I'm sorry." Qing Qianlong raised his head and howled. After saying this, he raised his sword and slit his own throat. His blood splattered across the grass. "Senior brother!" More than 300 sword cultivators exclaimed and hurried over. The little black snake sat on Chongming Demon Monarch's shoulder and sighed. "You humiliating him like this is worse than killing him. This old fellow might not be able to live on." Xian Xianghua said disdainfully, "Pretentious. If he really wants to die, he can just scatter his soul. Why would he need to slit his throat?" With this level of cultivation, even if their throats were slit and their heads exploded, they wouldn't die completely because their primordial spirits were still present. Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin subconsciously looked back, and indeed, they saw the hegemon sword sect disciples crying and shouting that they did not blame Qing Qianlong, that they would definitely report the matter to the sect, and that they would all die together. His methods were truly impressive. They sighed in their hearts and could only admire him. "Are you hurt?" Zhou Xuanji asked Xian Xianghua. Looking at this old demonic woman's complexion, she seemed to be in good condition. Xian Xianghua smiled proudly and said, "Do they think they can hurt me?" She had recovered to her peak or even surpassed her peak. Except for Sunlight Emperor, she was not afraid of anyone. "Is Ta Tianchen dead?" Han Shenhua asked out of concern. The evil lord had already been killed by Zhou Xuanji. If Ta Tianchen also died, Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance would not be able to do anything. At least for a while, they would not have the time to hunt them down. Xian Xianghua shook her head and said, "I wanted to kill him, but I wanted to come to Skyfall earlier so that I could escape quickly." Everyone rolled their eyes. She made it sound so dignified, but wasn't it because she could not kill him? "That's right, I caught the remnant soul of the ancient Diablo. I'll hand him to you after we settle down," Zhou Xuanji said as he remembered something. Xian Xianghua's expression did not change and she only nodded slightly. Evidently, she had long since sensed the ancient Diablo's existence. The group quickly flew toward Skyfall. Xian Xianghua was the fastest. She quickly disappeared, and in less than 3 breaths of time, she flew over with Liuwu Demon Wolf. Liuwu Demon Wolf was covered in blood, and his arms were visibly broken. He continuously coughed up blood and looked extremely wretched. Seeing this, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They had not even come to their senses, and Xian Xianghua had already made an 8th-rank great demon lose his battle strength. How powerful was this old demonic woman? Zhou Xuanji was thinking about this too. Daoya Old Man once said that many cultivators in the northern wilderness top 100 had surpassed the great realization stage. What stage was Xian Xianghua, who was once the top cultivator in the world, at? There are 4 8th-rank great demons on the mountain, and a 9th-rank demon dragon that has been sleeping for a long time. It's in the magma of Skyfall and has probably been sleeping for more than 1,000 years. Unless Skyfall collapses, it will not wake up. Xian Xianghua said with a smile, which made everyone open their eyes wide. 9th-rank demon dragon? Evidently, this 9th-rank demon dragon was not Jihuang Demon Lord's subordinate, and the demons did not notice its existence. Dragon, the little black snake swallowed its saliva. It spent 1,000 years to transform into a dragon. This demonic dragon slept for an entire lifetime. 9th rank, demon dragon? Liuwu Demon Wolf was trembling in fear, and his eyes were wide open. He had slept on Skyfall for so many years. Now that he thought about it, his soul could not help but shudder. "Follow me. Let's go to the peak of Skyfall first," Xian Xianghua said with a smile. After that, she raised her right hand and threw Liuwu Demon Wolf up. In the blink of an eye, Liuwu Demon Wolf disappeared above the sea of clouds. Chongming Demon Monarch, the little black snake, Han Shenhua, Xiao Jinghong, and the others were all covered in cold sweat. Such power! Zhou Xuanji held Jiang Shue's hand and continued to fly upward. The others came back to their senses and followed closely behind. Skyfall was very high. It was awe-inspiring to look at it from afar, but it was unforgettable when they were climbing it. After flying over the sea of clouds, everyone looked up and opened their eyes wide. They thought that they could see the peak after flying over the sea of clouds, but they still could not see the peak. Skyfall was too high. It was as though it reached the end of the sky, and it was awe-inspiring. Rows of demon beasts circled the mountain walls, and their cries rose and fell. It was like a paradise. After flying for a while, Xiao Jinghong sighed in amazement. We've already flown more than 10,000 meters, but the peak is still too high to see. He had heard many legends about Skyfall. Only by climbing it could he feel its indescribable grandeur. Xian Xianghua's demonic aura enveloped Skyfall, and the demons all hid into the forest, not daring to show themselves. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji and the others were not attacked. After flying over layers of clouds, the sky began to fade. The blue sky turned into a starry sky. Looking into the distance, they thought that they had left the northern wilderness region and arrived in outer space. No, this is a smokescreen. Zhou Xuanji frowned because he could not see other mountains. It was as though Skyfall was the tallest in the world. Most importantly, the spiritual qi here was extremely abundant. The higher they went, the denser the spiritual qi. This was not logical. This is the innate restriction. It makes you feel like you're in an illusion. If you keep flying upward, you will lose your mind and eventually fall down. Both your body and spirit will be destroyed, and there will be no hope of recovery. Daoya old man sighed in amazement. His tone was filled with sorrow. The heavens and earth were always the most powerful beings. Even if you were the top cultivator in the world, you still had to stay in this world. The group continued flying. The peak of Skyfall was a flat land with a diameter of a few miles. There were protruding rocks along the edge, making the peak look like a basin. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 232. Everyone descended to the top of the mountain. Looking at the starry sky, they were all stunned. Jiang Shui raised her right hand and reached upwards. She said softly, "I feel like I can really touch the sky." The others raised their hands as well, revealing looks of astonishment. They felt as if they had touched an invisible barrier. It was soft and warm. That's not it. It's formed from the dense spiritual qi. It's not the real sky. Daoya old man stroked his beard and smiled, his eyes filled with surprise. If he cultivated here, his cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Ada and Little Air chattered non-stop. The red qilin and three-eyed drought rodent also began to run about excitedly. Xian Xianghua looked at Liuwu Demon Wolf, who was like a dead dog, and said with a cold smile, "I have placed a restriction in your body. With a single thought, I can destroy your soul. From now on, you are the demon general of Skyfall, and you will protect Skyfall. Understand?" Liuwu Demon Wolf's face was pale, and despair appeared in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji looked around to find a suitable place to build the palace. From now on, they would settle down here and establish their own sect. Xian Xianghua ordered Liuwu Demon Wolf to gather all the demons on Skyfall. The other 3 level 8 demons were also suppressed by her. They were called Vast Sky Boar King, Shocking Sky Eagle, and Great Earth Bear Monarch. Like Liuwu Wolf Demon, the Great Earth Bear Monarch was a subordinate of Jihuang Demon Lord. As for the other demons on the mountain, Zhou Xuanji did not chase them away. Their sects were not built yet anyway. At night, the starry sky above Skyfall became even brighter, and everyone gathered around the bonfire. "When do you plan to establish your own sect?" She sat on Zhou Xuanji's left while Jiang Shui sat on his right. In her eyes, there was only Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji muttered, "It's still early. Everyone should cultivate first. When we truly have the power to resist the entire world, that will be the time for our sword sect. In the future, if anyone comes to Skyfall with talent in the way of the sword, we can take them in." Establishing a sect was not something that could be done overnight. He was not in a hurry. At this moment, he only wanted to cultivate the world Buddha art to completion. When he became the world's number one, countless people would flock to him. That would be carefree. Xian Xianghua nodded, her eyes filled with approval. Sect Master Xian, the Tanhua sect is gone. Why don't you join us and become an elder in the future? Han Shenhua asked cautiously. Upon hearing this, Xian Xianghua glanced at him, causing him to hurriedly lower his head in fear. She turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "This is your idea?" Zhou Xuanji did not deny it but looked at her quietly. "I will not agree. As long as I am alive, the Tanhua sect will not be destroyed." Xian Xianghua's eyes were calm as she spoke slowly. She did not let her emotions get to her head. She was still the number one devil cultivator who wanted to rule the world. "I will accompany you for a while. Once Skyfall has settled down, I will leave and rebuild the Tanhua sect. By the way, give me the evil king's remnant soul." After saying that, Xian Xianghua extended her right hand. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly and raised his hand, taking out the ancient Diablo's remnant soul from the Tianxia map. After obtaining the Diablo's remnant soul, Xian Xianghua disappeared. Everyone looked at each other. The little black snake lamented, "Master, your charm is still not enough." Zhou Xuanji looked at him coldly. "Take it slow. The Tanhua sect is where she was born and grew up. It accompanied her for her entire life. How could she give it up?" Daoya old man said with a smile. It was already a great thing to be able to conquer Skyfall. The group nodded. After that, they began discussing about building wooden huts. In less than an hour, they built 8 wooden huts. After Jiang Shui took out the bedding and laid the wooden bed, Zhou Xuanji lay on it and stretched. "So comfortable," he exclaimed in amazement. Although meditating and cultivating made him more energetic, he still preferred to lie down. After Jiang Shui closed the door, she sat on his stomach and grabbed his shoulders. "You should tell me a story tonight," she snorted. Zhou Xuanji said lazily, "Tomorrow. I want to rest." "Come down." Having heard that, Jiang Shui's body leaned down, and her butt slid backward. SSSS, Zhou Xuanji took in a cold breath and carried her down. Okay. I will tell you." He rolled his eyes and looked at Jiang Shui, who was smiling proudly. An evil flame rose up in his lower abdomen. He flipped her over and pressed her down before lowering his head slowly. Jiang Shui's eyes became misty, and her pretty face was covered by his head. The next morning, Zhou Xuanji woke up with Jiang Shui and began cultivating. He walked to an empty space and took out the Hegemon Sword Sect Sword Formation Scroll. After sitting down, he scanned the scroll with his divine sense. After a while, he opened his eyes and mumbled, "Such an exquisite sword formation." He suddenly understood why the Hegemon Sword Sect was so prosperous. At the same time, it opened the door to a whole new world for him. Sword formation. The sword formation was indeed powerful. Sword formations of the same grade were generally more destructive than sword techniques. This sword formation was called the 100-star sky-covering sword formation. It required 100 sword cultivators to cast together. It was so powerful that it would be difficult to escape if one entered the formation. Zhou Xuanji did not have 100 swords yet, and he did not want to buy ordinary swords. If he used the legendary swords from the system, he would consume much less soul energy, and it was more convenient. He immediately took out all of his legendary swords and began practicing the formation. Shao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, Huang Lianxin, and Biyao Wangjian immediately came over to watch. Legend has it that the Hegemon Sword Emperor was able to set up a sword formation by himself. Although he was proficient in using only one sword, the Hegemon Sword Sex Sword Dao tradition came from him. Zhao Zongjian muttered to himself, his eyes filled with anticipation. If Zhou Xuanji could use the sword formation alone, his power would surely grow. Wouldn't it be perfect to teach them in the future? Zhou Xuanji ignored them and focused on arranging the formation. There were thousands of moves in the sword formation, and each of the divine swords crisscrossed. Just practicing it once would take a very long time. He planned to modify the 100-star sky-covering sword formation into a few dozen stars. The variations in power would be reduced, but it was still a sword formation. The first day, he practiced the 100-star sky-obscuring sword formation 10 times. Everyone was shocked. Could Zhou Xuanji really learn it in such a short time? 10 days later, after practicing the 100-star sky-obscuring sword formation for 100 times, the more he practiced, the faster he could form the formation. Another 5 days passed. After practicing the 100-star sky-obscuring sword formation for 500 times, he achieved great accomplishment. However, he could not manifest the sword will in the sword formation. According to the sword spirit, the sword formation also had a state similar to the sword will. The sword owner had to comprehend it himself. Once he comprehended it, he could manifest it directly when he practiced the sword formation in the future. Impressive. You mastered the sword formation in half a month. Is this really your first time learning the sword formation? Xian Xianghua sat on the stone chair and asked curiously. She had heard about Zhou Xuanji's talent before, but only after seeing it with her own eyes could she truly feel it. Is this brat really human? The techniques in the world are all the same. The sword's way, the saber's way, and the spear's way are the same. Each Tao has its own essence. If you can understand the core of sword techniques and sword formations, everything else will be fine. Zhou Xuanji looked at the dozens of legendary swords levitating in the air and said calmly. Master, what's the core of the sword's way? Zhao Zongjian asked excitedly. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, it can only be understood and not explained. If you understand it, then you understand it. I understood it when I was born. As for when you will understand it, it is fate. Calm. WonderfulBookhouse.com. Chapter 233. Zhao Zongjian was dismayed by Zhou Xuanji, but he did not know how to retort, so he turned around to practice his sword techniques. Zhou Xuanji glanced at Xiao Jingheng, Biyao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin. The three of them immediately understood and obediently turned around to practice their swords. Xian Xianghua shook her head and said with a smile, you sure know how to talk. Zhou Xuanji looked at her and asked seriously, do you know why you fell from the throne of number 1 in the world and can no longer climb back up? Hearing this, Xian Xianghua could not help but frown. This was her sore spot. Why? She squinted her eyes and asked. Her dangerous aura moved Jiang Shui, Han Shenhua, Chongming Demon Monarch, and Daoya Old Man. What does this old witch want to do? Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, because you have a demonic barrier. After you lost, you talked about it every day, as if you were afraid that others did not know that you were once number 1 in the world. Actually, you are very strong. In the hearts of all living beings, Sunlight Emperor might not be as good as you. Xian Xianghua's frown deepened as she fell into deep thought. Zhou Xuanji stared at Jiang Shui and said, why aren't you cultivating? Why are you daydreaming? Jiang Shui curled her lips and left. Han Shenhua, Daoya Old Man, and Chongming Demon Monarch also left. After that, Zhou Xuanji stored his sword, sat down, and began cultivating. He had already learned the 100-star sky-covering sword formation. Although he could not unleash its full power, he would be able to do it sooner or later when he had more divine swords. Next, he began to focus on cultivation. As for sword techniques, he already had enough for him to use. Time flew by. 4 months later. Zhou Xuanji broke through to astral projection level 7 so quickly because of the Tianxia map and the spirit gathering formation created by Xian Xianghua. The spirit qi at the top of Skyfall was already very dense. If he cultivated here, one day would be equivalent to 10 days. The others had also broken through, except for Daoya Old Man. Daoya Old Man had almost never cultivated under their watch. This old thing spent his days idling around Skyfall. In his words, because he had peeked into the secrets of the heavens too much, if he broke through again, the heavenly tribulation would kill him. As such, he did not dare to cultivate anymore. From leaving Aperture Realm onward, one would face a heavenly tribulation for every breakthrough in cultivation. Breaking through the spirit refinement realm was considered to be breaking away from the mortal body. Its lifespan could reach 10,000 years. After breaking through to astral projection level 7, Zhou Xuanji did not stop cultivating and set a good example for the others. The other side. Liuwu Demon Wolf and Dade Bear Monarch were gathered in a cave. The Great Earth Bear Monarch had a tall and sturdy physique. His cheeks were covered with bear fur, and he wore thick and heavy black scale armor. He had a worried expression as he sighed and said, "What should we do?" Liuwu Demonic Wolf was also having a hard time along the way. He held a scroll in his hand that was transformed from a fiend race supreme being. He called for all fiend generals to return, saying that there were important matters to discuss. Now that they were being detained by Xian Xianghua, how could they dare to go back? They did not even dare to report this matter to Xian Xianghua for fear that she would kill them. Forget it, let's not worry about this matter for now. The Supremes are probably going to declare war on the human race. Without the two of us, they can't be bothered. The war between the two races will definitely last for a long time. Whether or not they will pursue this matter in the future, no one knows. Liuwu Demon Wolf pondered deeply. The Dade Bear Monarch pondered for a moment before nodding. Given the current situation, that was all they could do. Right, isn't there a level 9 demon dragon in Skyfall? Why isn't there any movement? The Dade Bear Monarch asked. When Liuwu Demon Wolf told him about this, he was almost scared witless. It seemed like a difference of one level, but it was actually a treasure. I'm not sure. They did not disturb the level 9 demon dragon, as though it doesn't exist. Liuwu Demon Wolf said with a frown. He was confused in his heart. Could it be that there was no level 9 demon dragon at all? Finally, the two demons came to a consensus. And that was to endure. Half a year passed. Zhou Xuanji sat on a boulder by the cliff with the starry sky above his head. He gathered qi and cultivated. The second level of the world Buddha art, world reincarnation, was too domineering and difficult to master. According to his estimation, it would take at least a few decades. Compared to world internalization, world reincarnation required more luck. It was not even on the same order of magnitude. But such a divine art had to be cultivated patiently. The human race and fiend race are at war. Daoya Old Man's voice came from behind him. Having heard that, Zhou Xuanji was indifferent. Weren't the two races always at war? This time is different from the past. The sovereign of the fiend race is leading the entire fiend race to wage war against the 7 empires and 8 sanctums. The war will engulf the entire northern wilderness region. At that time, all the major factions will fight for their own race. Skyfall might be implicated, Daoya Old Man continued with a solemn expression. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and said, "What's there to be afraid of? As long as the sovereign of the fiend race doesn't come personally, it has nothing to do with us." He was also in the Northern Wilderness Top 100. After learning world internalization and the 100-star sky covering formation, his power grew tremendously, so he was naturally confident. But if the human race is destroyed, what's the point of establishing a new sect? Daoya Old Man asked. There were very few demons who practiced the sword. When that time came, the fiend race would not tolerate the existence of Zhou Xuanji and the others. Zhou Xuanji turned around and glanced at him. Is it really that serious? he asked. He had read some records in ancient books. A long time ago, before the human race was born, the world was controlled by the fiend race. We can't exclude this possibility. There has not been a war like this for 10,000 years. Although Jihuang Demon Lord is ranked second in the world, he is extremely talented and powerful. He can unite the fiend race. For 10,000 years, humans have been killing each other, and their numbers are far from the fiend race. Also, I have already divined the decline of the great Zhou Empire. The city will be destroyed, and the mountains will be destroyed. Daoya Old Man said with a serious expression, which made Zhou Xuanji frown. I was just about to focus on cultivation. Why did such a big thing happen? Is the heavens against me? Isn't Yang Di the top cultivator in the world? He should be able to suppress Jihuang Demon Lord, Zhou Xuanji reminded her. In Xian Xianghua's words, she only saw Yang Di as a competitor and did not take Jihuang Demon Lord seriously at all. He is indeed the top cultivator in the world, but Jihuang Demon Lord is not bad either. They will definitely fight. What if Yang Di cannot suppress Jihuang Demon Lord? Daoya Old Man asked, and Zhou Xuanji sank into his thoughts. Boom! At that moment, Skyfall trembled, and the sound of a shocking battle came from below. A little pig demon dares to stop me? A wild laughter sounded out. If it wasn't for Zhou Xuanji and Daoya Old Man's cultivation being quite high, they would not have heard it. After all, Skyfall was simply too high. Below the mountain, the 100-meter-tall clear sky boar king smashed into the side of Skyfall's mountain, a look of pain on his face. The trees in front of him were all toppled, and the ground was overturned, forming a long ravine. The Haotian boar king was an 8th-level greater demon. He had a human body and the head of a boar. He wore bronze armor, and he had sharp fangs in his mouth. His face was savage, and he exuded a ferocious might. Following his gaze, Zhang Xian saw a green-robed man hovering in the air above the forest, holding a golden longsword in his hand. His face was handsome, and there was an air of arrogance between his brows. His entire being seemed otherworldly. This is Skyfall. Do not trespass. Haotian Boar King growled. He raised his right hand and a huge hammer appeared in his hand. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 234. Skyfall. From now on, this mountain belongs to me, the peerless sword celestial. The green-robed man smirked in satisfaction, completely ignoring Haotian Boar King's warning. Peerless sword immortal? What the hell? The Haotian Boar King was enraged. The fur on his body stood up, and his demonic body seemed to have become even more muscular. He leaped up like a small mountain. He raised his giant hammer high and smashed it towards the green-clothed man. The green-robed man raised his sword and slashed out. Streaks of golden sword chi crisscrossed and slashed out. They were extremely fast and their auras were strong. Haotian Boar King was sent flying into the sky. His body was slashed and blood flowed out. Then, the green-robed man rushed towards him. It was as if a beam of golden light had shot into the sky from the ground, splitting heaven and earth into two. Haotian Boar King lowered his head and roared angrily. Roar, his voice was domineering and shook the surroundings, causing countless trees to shake. The green-clothed man frowned. Just as he was about to swing his sword, a cold light shot towards him from the top of Skyfall. Xiao! The green-robed man was moved and subconsciously swung his sword to block the attack. With a clang, his right hand was numb from the impact, and the blade of his sword was trembling non-stop. He focused his eyes and saw that it was a giant sword. Hegemen Jiu. How dare you occupy my Skyfall? Today, I want to see what kind of abilities you, a sword celestial, have. Zhou Xuanji's cold laughter came from the top of the mountain. Next, he flew over from the sea of clouds on his sword. A past sword immortal? The green-robed man almost vomited blood. He was instantly enraged. How dare they humiliate him? Zhou Xuanji stood on the wind-cutter sword with the God Emperor sword and white dragon bone sword in his hands. His white dragon golden robe fluttered in the wind, and his black hair danced like flames. His eyes were cold as he stared fixedly at the green-robed man. I'm the peerless sword immortal, Ning Zifeng. Brat, do you know what price you will have to pay for humiliating me? The man in green said in a deep voice. Just when he finished speaking, Zhou Xuanji was already less than 300 meters away from him. Haotian Boar King floated in the air and looked at Zhou Xuanji in confusion. These demons were all subdued by Xian Xianghua, so he was not familiar with Zhou Xuanji. Ning Zifeng was very powerful, more powerful than him. He did not know if Zhou Xuanji could deal with him. I've never heard of your name before. You're just a nobody. Zhou Xuanji said disdainfully. As he spoke, legendary swords appeared behind him. Crimson Dragon Sword, Frost Wave Sword, Bloodbath Sword, Tiger Roar Sword, Wind Cutter Sword, Swine Culling Sword, Golden Rock Sword, Heaven Sound Sword, Hell King Sword, Afterimage Sword, Thunderclap Sword, Formless Sword, Furious Ape Sword, Chicken Slaying Sword, Water Driving Sword, Soaring Eagle Sword, Absorption Sword, Ghost Curse Sword, Book Cutter Sword. Every divine sword was surrounded by dragon-shaped sword chi, stunning Ning Zifeng. So many swords, he called himself the peerless sword immortal, so he naturally loved swords all his life. However, this was the first time he saw so many extraordinary swords being wielded by a single person. Very good. Since I've encountered a sword cultivator, let's fight. Ning Zifeng smiled proudly. With the golden sword in his hand, his aura suddenly changed. Sword intent. Zhou Xuanji raised his two swords and charged over. The God Emperor and White Dragon condensed around his body, and he came before Ning Zifeng in the blink of an eye. Dual Sword Will. His body was like a gust of wind as he executed sword techniques with both swords, forcing Ning Zifeng to dodge in panic. How can an astral projection cultivator have such a powerful aura? Ning Zifeng immediately saw through Zhou Xuanji's cultivation and was shocked. Zhou Xuanji was more powerful than him. His spirit energy was boundless like the ocean. He blocked with all his might, but a while later, his right arm felt sore and numb. He was greatly shocked in his heart. He no longer fought head-on but dodged Zhou Xuanji's attack with his movement technique. It must be known that he had the cultivation of Great Realization Level 1. Although he had just reached the Great Realization stage, he often fought against those at higher stages than him. It was his first time suppressing someone at a lower stage than him. What kind of monster is this brat? Ning Zifeng cursed in his heart and dared not to let his guard down. At this moment, his golden sword clashed with the God Emperor sword again. His golden sword froze. His expression changed drastically. He could sense that the spirit energy in his body was being forcefully sucked away and transferred into Zhou Xuanji's body through the two swords. What energy technique is this? He asked with gritted teeth. There were many energy techniques that could absorb the enemy's spirit energy, but it was his first time encountering an energy technique that could absorb someone at a higher stage than him. The most important thing was the horrifying speed of absorption. At the same time, all the legendary swords flew above the two of them and formed a circle with their tips pointing downward. Who are you? Ning Zifeng asked again. As he spoke, his spirit energy exploded and forced Zhou Xuanji back. I'm Zhou Xuanji, the Sword Emperor of the present age. Zhou Xuanji said with a soft laugh. Just when he spoke, countless sword chi descended from the sky and surrounded Ning Zifeng. Ning Zifeng sensed that the sky darkened and looked up instinctively. The dragon-shaped sword chi of dozens of legendary swords intertwined and formed the image of stars. The background was pitch black and was decorated with stars. 100-star sky-covering formation. He immediately tried to move, but in the end, he crashed into an invisible barrier and was sent flying back. This is a sword formation? Ning Zifeng was shocked and looked at Zhou Xuanji in astonishment. Casting a sword formation by himself? He had seen it before, but it was a majestic sight to see so many swords lined up in a formation. Zhou Xuanji focused his eyes and activated the 100-star sky-covering formation. Swoosh! 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 Countless sword chi shot out from the legendary swords and wreaked havoc in the sword formation. Ning Zifeng hurriedly swung his sword to block, and his sword moved extremely quickly. Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others descended from the sea of clouds and witnessed the might of the 100-star sky-covering formation. Wow, that's the 100-star sky-covering formation? So powerful. He captured the enemy so quickly. This pressure, if I was inside, such powerful sword chi. If ordinary spirit refinement cultivators were inside, they would be instantly killed. Master is becoming more and more powerful. Everyone continuously cried out. Back then, they had seen Zhou Xuanji master this sword formation, but it was the first time they had seen its might. Daoya old man pinched his fingers and divined. This person is not from the northern wilderness region. The top genius of the Chaos Tide Sea? Could he be from overseas? He muttered to himself, causing the others to look over. Chaos Tide Sea? At the same time, Ning Zifeng's pained cry sounded out. Countless sword chi minced him into a bloodied man, and his white bones could be seen. Facing the powerful 100-star sky-covering formation, he was unable to withstand it in the end. Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows, and the sword formation stopped. Ning Zifeng, who had turned into a bloodied man, fell down. At that moment, Xian Xianghua appeared beside Zhou Xuanji and said with some interest, "You defeated a great realization cultivator so easily, and you haven't even used your most powerful sword. Little husband, you are becoming more and more powerful." In the air, Haotian Boar King was dumbfounded and could not believe his eyes. What did he see? An astral projection cultivator easily defeated a great realization cultivator? Zhou Xuanji said, "Help me seal him. This person calls himself the Peerless Sword Immortal, but there is no such person in the northern wilderness region. Perhaps we can learn something from him." The most important reason was that he wanted to take in Ning Zifeng. A great realization sword slave? Not bad. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 235. Okay, Xian Xianghua replied. She waved her right hand, and the demonic qi transformed into a black shadow that dashed forward. At this moment, Jiang Shui, Daoya old man, Xiao Jinghong, and the others flew over. Revered teacher, your sword formation is really powerful. It's hard to find someone as talented in sword formations as you in the hegemon sword sect, Xiao Jinghong said with a smile. Xiao Jinghong said with a smile. His face was full of admiration, which pleased Zhou Xuanji. This kid was suitable to be by his side. He could make others feel happy. When it was time to flatter him, he would flatter him without holding back. Daoya old man said to Zhou Xuanji, "This person came from overseas, a place called the Chaos Tide Sea. He's the top genius there, so we must be careful." Chaos Tide Sea? Zhou Xuanji frowned. All along, although people from the northern wilderness region often explored overseas, most of them never returned. He did not expect to meet someone from overseas today. To be called the top genius, it meant that there were many people there. Why did he come to the northern wilderness region? Chaos Tide Sea? Interesting. Jiang Wudi wanted to leave the northern wilderness region recently, and now a great realization cultivator came back from overseas. It seems like the situation in the world is really going to change. Xian Xianghua mumbled to herself in a meaningful tone. Zhou Xuanji was not too concerned about this. Soon, Ning Zifeng was brought back by the black shadow and flew up to the cloud sea with the rest. Haotian Boar King knelt respectfully in the air. His eyes were filled with passion. In the battle just now, Zhou Xuanji's prowess had won him over. With such a powerful cultivator protecting him, he could cultivate in Skyfall with peace of mind. An hour later. At the top of Skyfall, Ning Zifeng, whose body had recovered, sat paralyzed on the ground. He looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated gaze. It was not that he had never lost before. But this was the first time he lost to someone with a lower cultivation stage than him. And a sword cultivator at that. Tell me, why did you come to the northern wilderness region? Zhou Xuanji looked at him and asked. Ning Zifeng took a deep breath and said, My name is Ning Zifeng. Just as you guessed, I came from the Chaos Tide Sea. Because of my hatred for the world, I had to hide. I crossed the boundless ocean and experienced many difficulties before I came to the northern wilderness region. I wanted to find a place to cultivate, so I came here. Let me make it clear first. I have never harmed anyone in this continent. I just want to find a place to cultivate. He was very depressed. Ever since he had entered the continent, he had only encountered demons, and Zhou Xuanji was the only person he had encountered. In the end, he was defeated as soon as they met. At this moment, he began to doubt his life. Could it be that this continent was much stronger than the ocean? How far is the Chaos Tide Sea from the northern wilderness region? How many sects are there? Xiao Jinghong asked. Ning Zifeng's strength made him feel a sense of danger. He had already guessed Zhou Xuanji's thoughts. Very far, very far. I met many people from the northern wilderness region on the ocean. They all wanted to head to the various sea regions to seek for opportunities. Little did they know that there are many sects in the sea regions, countless dynasties, and dangers everywhere. Anyway, I feel that the northern wilderness region is very peaceful. Ning Zifeng sighed. He had a good eye for people and knew that Zhou Xuanji did not want to kill him. Leaving him alive was probably to subdue him. After all, he had lived for more than 1,000 years and had encountered many such incidents. Who is the most powerful person in the Chaos Tide Sea? How powerful is he? The little black snake asked noisily. Hearing about the Chaos Tide Sea, everyone was very interested. Ning Zifeng replied without hesitation, It should be Tian. 1,000 years ago, he descended from the sky and was invincible. He proclaimed himself to be the sole ruler and wanted to kill everyone with monarchical violet qi in the world. Tian? Everyone was stunned and thought of the thing that had descended from the sky. That thing had also descended from the sky. At this moment, Ning Zifeng looked at Zhou Xuanji and said seriously, Let me go, and I will not disturb you anymore. When my way of the sword reaches great accomplishment, I will definitely return the favor. How about that? Zhou Xuanji replied calmly, You can cultivate here. From today onwards, you will be my sword slave. Hearing this, Ning Zifeng's eyes widened. He had guessed that Zhou Xuanji wanted to take him as a disciple, but he did not expect him to be a sword slave. He felt humiliated and gritted his teeth as he said, Kill me. Compared to being a slave, it was better to die. I can teach you sword techniques. Zhou Xuanji looked into his eyes and said softly. Beixiao Wangjian called out, Why take him in? It's best to kill him. The little black snake agreed. This boy was too noble and virtuous. If he was kept alive, he would not be a good person. Ning Zifeng coldly harumphed and said, My talent in the way of the sword is unparalleled, and I'm proficient in hundreds of sword techniques. Why do I need to learn from you? He was a sword maniac. For the sword, he had left his home and traveled the world with his sword. Now that he had reached great accomplishment, he had formed the way of the sword. How much sword will do you know? Zhou Xuanji continued to ask. Very good, this boy's sword technique belonged to him. Sword will? Of course there's only one. Everyone has their own sword will. Their own sword is the sword will, Ning Zifeng said as he harumphed. He looked at Zhou Xuanji as if he was looking at an idiot. Zhou Xuanji picked up his golden sword and walked to the side. Under everyone's gazes, he began to practice the sword. First was the white crane sword technique. It was agile and graceful, and his body was like a white crane. Within a small space, with his right foot as the axis, the sword technique was swift and fierce, and the sound of wind being torn continuously sounded out. Sword will. Ning Zifeng's eyes narrowed. Why did he feel that this sword will was different from Zhou Xuanji's sword will from before? Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, Huang Lianxin, and Bei Xiao Wangjian were mesmerized. The simple white crane sword technique was used by Zhou Xuanji, but it was profound and unfathomable. It was like the Tao of nature. Next was the fiery sword technique. Trisource vein severing sword. 36 paths jade shao sword. Tempest slash. Moonlit wind sword dance. Vibrant raindrop sword. Chilling wave sound wave. Sky dominating divine sword. Hold on. Each set of sword techniques had different sword wills and different auras. Everyone was dazzled by them. Ning Zifeng opened his mouth wide as though he had seen a ghost. Xian Xianghua was also amazed. She suddenly realized that Zhou Xuanji looked so majestic and handsome when he swung his sword. A long while later, Zhou Xuanji swung his right hand, and the golden sword landed in front of Ning Zifeng. The blade pierced into the ground, and the blade shook. Looking at his beloved sword, Ning Zifeng fell into a daze. At this moment, the way of the sword that he believed in collapsed. How can someone master so many sword wills in this world? Impossible, he mumbled to himself, which made the others burst into laughter. Zhou Xuanji walked over and said, "You said it yourself. Everyone's sword will is different, and so is their way of the sword. My way of the sword is the way of 10,000 swords, the emperor of the way of the sword. Your way of the sword is just one of 10,000 ways of the sword, but I will rule over all the ways of the sword. The sword emperor that I want to be is not the pinnacle of a certain way of the sword but the way of the sword." His voice was sonorous and powerful, and his tone was filled with conceit. After he spoke, he activated Sword Master Haki straightaway. In an instant, the golden sword before Ning Zifeng trembled violently. Not only that, but the swords of Xiao Jinghong and the other three also trembled. In the eyes of the 5 sword cultivators, Zhou Xuanji was so domineering and mighty. Stars surround the moon. I am the bright moon, and I will give you the chance to be a star. It's your honor to be my sword slave. If you miss this chance, you will regret it one day. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 236. Ning Zifeng fell silent. Zhou Xuanji's words had greatly shocked him. The others were already used to it, but Xian Xianghua liked Zhou Xuanji more and more. This kid was ambitious. As expected of the man she wanted to marry. The little black snake laid on Chongming Demon Monarch's shoulder and sighed. "You really know how to talk nonsense." Jiang Shui covered her mouth and giggled. She had personally witnessed Zhou Xuanji subduing Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, Bei Xiao Wangjian, and the others. This fellow's words came out of nowhere, and he pulled out the heavens and the earth, directly striking at people's hearts. He first used his powerful strength to defeat his opponent, and then used sharp and hot-blooded words to stir up his opponent's emotions. All in all, in her heart, Zhou Xuanji was omnipotent. It won't be long before Master's cultivation surpasses yours. You must know that Master is only 24 years old at the moment. Do you understand what it means to reach leaving aperture realm level 7 at 20? Zhao Congjian said to assist Zhou Xuanji. Ning Zifeng was powerful and knew so many sword techniques. He was qualified to join them. Of course, the most important reason was that he had his eyes on Ning Zifeng's hundreds of powerful sword techniques. Xian Xianghua snorted, "He's my man. It's your honor to be his sword slave. If you're unwilling, then you can go die." With that, she unleashed her murderous aura and locked onto Ning Zifeng. Ning Zifeng widened his eyes and looked at her in horror. What a terrifying killing intent. What kind of strength did this woman have? His expression fluctuated, and in the end, he could only lower his head and grit his teeth. "Greetings, Master." Since things had come to this, he had no other choice. He was already interested in Zhou Xuanji's way of the sword. Just like that, Zhou Xuanji obtained another sword slave, and it was at the great realization stage. Ning Zifeng began to confess his past. It turned out that he was the northern wilderness Zhou Xuanji in the Chaos Tide Sea. Ever since he revealed his prowess, he had overcome all obstacles to become the #1 genius of the Chaos Tide Sea step by step. In terms of the sword Dao, he was also one of the best. It was a pity that Zhou Xuanji was even more overpowered than him. He was also very curious about Zhou Xuanji's past. The group did not hide anything, and Zhou Xuanji was dumbfounded. Was there really such a person in the world? Zhou Xuanji walked aside and continued his cultivation. Seeing the vortex of spiritual qi above Zhou Xuanji's head, he was shocked again. 3 days later, after Ning Zifeng's injuries healed, he started to wander around Skyfall. After all, Skyfall was very big, and he wanted to look around. There were no tall mountains in the Chaos Tide Sea. During this period of time, he wanted to escape, but he was captured by Xian Xianghua and given a vicious beating. Only after recuperating for a month did he become obedient. On this day, analyze that the sword owner has reached 25 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Gold, Wind and Cloud Sword, Gold, Light Shadow Sword, Glorious Gold, Buddha Slaying Sword, and 3 Armageddon. Zhou Xuanji, who was cultivating, slowly opened his eyes, and the information of the 3 legendary swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Wind Cloud Sword level, Gold, description, a sword born from the wind and clouds. It possesses the 3 attributes of wind, water, and space. A swing of the sword can summon wind and clouds. Sword name, Sword of Light level, Gold, description, forged from luminous divine stone. The 2 sides of the blade contain different powers, one dark and one light. Sword name, Punishing Buddha Sword, level, Glorious Gold, description, created by the demonic path, it specializes in suppressing Buddhist qi. It is extremely powerful and needs to be used cautiously. Zhou Xuanji's gaze was attracted by the Buddha Slaying Sword. Glorious Gold legendary sword specialized in countering Buddha qi. Not bad. I will use it to deal with Chief Monk Xuanhe in the future. The 3 legendary swords appeared in his hands. Each of them was different in their own way, and all of them looked extraordinary. After playing with them for a while, he stored the 3 legendary swords into the supreme storage. Next, 3 white jade stones the size of eggs appeared in his hands. Sword Spirit, what's Armageddon? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously in his heart. It was produced by the system, so it should not be ordinary. It's like an explosive. It contains extremely horrifying energy, and one of them is enough to kill a great realization cultivator, destroying both his body and soul. It will explode once it's stimulated by spirit energy. The Sword Spirit replied, which shocked Zhou Xuanji so much that he quickly stored the 3 Armageddon swords. It can kill a great realization cultivator? Zhou Xuanji was covered in cold sweat. Fortunately, he did not channel his spirit energy into them just now. Normally, cultivators would channel their spirit energy into the enchanted artifacts to inspect them. Can I introduce them earlier next time? Zhou Xuanji thought unhappily. After the Sword Spirit agreed, he fell into silence. After thinking about it, he stood up and stretched his body. Looking down from the top of the mountain, he saw an endless sea of clouds. It had been almost a year since they came to Skyfall. During this period, they were busy with cultivation and were rarely disturbed by demons or cultivators. If any cultivators passed by, they would be captured and asked about the human race's recent situation before letting them go. Currently, the humans and demons were at war. Demons above 8th rank led countless demon armies to attack the 7 empires. Now that all the empires were at war, the 8 sanctums had no choice but to participate. Chief Monk Xuanhe fought with Jihuang Demon Lord and was severely injured by Xian Xianghua. He was beheaded by Jihuang Demon Lord within 3 moves and imprisoned. This alarmed the entire human race. The Hegemon Sword Sect, Xinhao Sect, Haoqi Alliance, and other powerful factions from both the righteous and evil sects joined the war. The central region of the northern wilderness region was flooded with blood. No one knew if the great Zhou Empire could survive. At the thought of this, Zhou Xuanji sighed softly. With Zhou Qingxin as the emperor, only Shitan Changshe and the sword monarch of Great Zhou could hold their own. They were considered the weakest among the 7 empires. Great Zhou was facing its most dangerous period. Back then, he promised to help the Great Zhou Empire, but he was far away at Skyfall and could not do anything. I'm preparing to leave. At this moment, Xian Xianghua's voice came from behind him. Next, a fragrance wafted into his nose. She came to his side and stood beside him, looking at the magnificent sea of clouds. Now that the 2 races are at war, it's time for the Tanhua sect to take a breather. What are you going to do? Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. He was already used to Xian Xianghua's existence and suddenly did not want her to leave. She smiled with squinted eyes and said, I have to gather the Tanhua sect and bring them near Skyfall to cultivate peacefully. After you establish your own sect, we can be neighbors. Isn't that good? Thinking of that scene, she smiled so widely that her eyes curved. Is that really it? Zhou Xuanji asked. He could not help but think of the Thousand Hands Devil Qin gang. Was he still alive? Xian Xianghua replied, yes, I'm going to settle the score with Jihuang Demon Lord. That old demon has been quite arrogant recently. After that, she turned around, lifted her veil, and kissed Zhou Xuanji on the cheek before disappearing. Don't worry. Nothing will happen to me. I will leave the demon dragon in the mountain to you. You are already powerful enough anyway. Her voice floated in the air and dissipated like the wind. Zhou Xuanji's frown did not relax. What was this old demonic woman trying to do? Couldn't she just cultivate peacefully? This is her obsession. She has already fallen into the demonic barrier of being the world's top cultivator. Daoya Old Man's voice came. She not only wants to challenge Jihuang Demon Lord but also Yang Di. She has been holding it in for a year and can't hold it in any longer. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 237. Daoya Old Man flew to Zhou Xuanji's back and sighed in amazement. Back then, Xian Xianghua was the strongest in the world, but now, she has been reduced to the number 4 in the world. How could she be willing to accept this? In addition, she has absorbed the Diablo's soul. Naturally, she has to get revenge. He said leisurely, and when he finished, he laughed to himself. In his entire life, Xian Xianghua was the most headstrong woman he had ever met. Although this old demonic woman loved Zhou Xuanji, she still had great ambitions in her heart. He even suspected that Xian Xianghua was actually a man who had taken over the body of a woman. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, is Yang Di really that powerful? Number 1 in the world. These 4 words made people think of many things. However, Sunlight Emperor was not very famous in the northern wilderness region. He was one of those strange existences. If you thought about it carefully, you would remember him, but if you didn't think about it, you wouldn't remember him. Sunlight Emperor had disappeared since he became the number 1 expert in the world. According to the rumors in the northern wilderness region, Sunlight Emperor was someone who trained hard. That was why he was able to retain his position as the world's number 1. So far, Sunlight Emperor had won the title of world number 1 3 times in a row. In other words, Xian Xianghua had never defeated him since he became famous. To be precise, no one in this world could defeat him. Powerful. I even feel that he will become a great emperor of the current era and stand shoulder to shoulder with the Hegemon Sword Emperor. Although Xian Xianghua's strength has improved, Sunlight Emperor's talent is even more terrifying. In addition, he has been practicing hard day after day. The gap between them is still too big. Daoya Old Man said seriously. He had once watched a world millennium duel, and the power of Yang Di left a deep impression on him. Great emperor of the present age. Zhou Xuanji fell silent. Daoya old man patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't think too much. Even if Xian Xianghua can't defeat him, she can still escape. Cultivate well. I'm looking forward to your battle with Yang Di." Thinking about how Zhou Xuanji could contend for first in the world, a look of anticipation appeared in his eyes. It would be great if Zhao Xian could see it. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "You're right. The most important thing now is to cultivate." At this moment, Ning Zifeng walked over. "Master, how do we cultivate dual sword intents? I can use both hands to perform different sword techniques, but I need to concentrate on the concept, so I can't perform two sword intents at all." Ning Zifeng asked in distress. Ever since Zhou Xuanji had taught him the dual sword wills, this boy no longer tried to run away. In Skyfall, no one would make things difficult for him, and he could learn even more profound sword skills. He had no reason to run away. Zhou Xuanji did not tell them that Xian Xianghua had left. He turned to look at Ning Zifeng and said, "Let's spar in sword techniques. I'll let you experience it during the spar. Remember, don't use spirit energy, just sword techniques." Hearing that, Ning Zifeng's spirits lifted and he quickly took out two golden swords. The two of them started sparring at the edge of Skyfall. In the distance, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, Beishao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin saw this scene. The four of them cultivated side by side and did not get up. Ever since Ning Zifeng joined them, they worked even harder. However, Ning Zifeng was at the Mahayana realm. How were they supposed to chase after him? After Xian Xianghua left, everyone's lives did not change. They continued to cultivate. Everyone's cultivation base was growing. Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, and Beishao Wangjian had already started breaking through to the nascent soul realm. The little black snake recovered to its peak, which was at the 5th rank. It could transform into a hegemon-scaled black dragon that was hundreds of meters long at any time, which looked mighty. A big and small air reached the 5th rank as well. Their wingspans were 30 meters long, which were like two small mountains. However, they could not speak the human language, let alone transform. Everything was progressing in a good direction. 8 months later, Zhou Xuanji broke through to astral projection level 8. This speed was already fast enough. Other than the dense spiritual qi at the top of Skyfall, it was also thanks to the help of the Tianxia map. However, his world Buddha art did not break through to the 2nd level. World reincarnation was too difficult. Fortunately, Ning Zifeng did not master two sword wills, which made him feel relieved. He taught Ning Zifeng everything he knew, but this guy's sword's way was deeply rooted and difficult to change. This day, the red Qilin suddenly roared crazily and ran around the top of the mountain. Now, it was as big as an adult tiger. When it roared, it looked extremely ferocious. "Little guy, be quiet." Chongming Demon Monarch charged over and punched it into the ground. Roar, even though it was lying on the ground, it was still roaring in a low voice. The others came over. "What's wrong with it?" Jiang Shui asked worriedly. The three-eyed drought rodent lay on her shoulder and looked at the red Qilin carefully. Back then, they were about the same size. But now, the red Qilin was a gigantic creature in its eyes. Maybe it's grown up and needs a mate. The little black snake said as it spat its forked tongue. Chongming Demon Monarch slapped it away with his tail. Daoya old man cried out in surprise, "It seems to be awakening. Let it go and let it do whatever it wants." Having heard that, Chongming Demon Monarch lifted his right leg, and the red Qilin ran away. The group looked at each other and could see the worry in each other's eyes. Not far away, Ning Zifeng, who was training his sword, was shocked in his heart. Qilin awakening? He had witnessed the prowess of a Qilin in the chaos-tide sea. Just thinking about it made his heart palpitate. He could not help but look back at Zhou Xuanji. Where did this guy get a qilin? After a year, he had a certain understanding of this group. Other than Beixiao Wangjian and the little black snake, everyone else was talented. Zhao Zongjian's talent in swordsmanship was even more terrifying than his, and Zhao Zongjian was only 34 years old. He was 34 years old and his cultivation level was slightly lower than Zhao Zongjian's. Although Xiao Jinghong's talent was slightly lower than Zhao Zongjian's, it was not by much. There was no need to mention Han Shenbua. He was number 1 on the hero leaderboard of the Great Zhou dynasty, and he held the number 1 spot steadily. Huang Lianxin's Ghost Emperor Divine Eye could see through everything, so it was hard to imagine how powerful it would be if she cultivated it to the highest level. Jiang Shui was a descendant of the Jiang clan. Her talent in the 5 elemental spells was outstanding. She would definitely become someone great. Chongming Demon Monarch, Big and Small Air, the 3-eyed Drought Rodent, and the Red Kirin were all extraordinary beings. He shook his head, stopped thinking about it, and continued to practice. Zifeng, come here. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji's voice came. Hearing this, Ning Zifeng hurried over. Master, what are your orders? He asked expectantly, thinking that Zhou Xuanji was going to teach him some skills. 2 bugs are coming. They're hiding under Skyfall. Go kill them. Zhou Xuanji instructed, which stunned Ning Zifeng. He asked, what does the other party look like? There were many demons on Skyfall. How would he know who to kill? They're demonic cultivators, called the Huangquan Twin Devils, Zhou Xuanji said casually. Zhou Xuanji said casually. Near Skyfall, there were only these 2 people. The others were all demons. Okay. Ning Zifeng immediately leaped down the mountain. Zhou Xuanji did not doubt his power at all. This brat had the cultivation of Great Realization level 1 and was the top genius in the Chaos Tide Sea. He had the ability to fight against those with higher cultivation levels, which was enough to make the Huangquan Twin Devils suffer. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 238. At the foot of Skyfall, in the forest. The Huangquan Twin Devils sat under a tree and looked up at Skyfall, their eyes filled with killing intent. When the time comes, this brat will occupy a treasured land. How comfortable. That's right. Since Xian Xianghua is already in the mainland, we must take this opportunity to obtain the Tianxia map. The 2 of them conversed in a low voice. When they recalled what happened at Juadi Cliff, they became anxious. They had hoped to kill Xian Xianghua, but Zhou Xuanji had suddenly appeared. At that time, they had also been injured. Even though they did not fear Zhou Xuanji, if Zhou Xuanji and Xian Xianghua teamed up, it would be difficult for them to deal with them in a short period of time. Moreover, Wanzhong King Spectre and the 4 immortal generals were also at Juadi Cliff. They could only retreat. Now that they had received information, they came to settle scores with Zhou Xuanji. However, Zhou Xuanji was no longer the same as before. They had to act cautiously. Xiao. Right at this moment, an ear-piercing sound rang out, startling the 2 of them into dodging swiftly. A golden sword pierced into the soil, its blade shining with a cold light. The Huangquan Twin Devils looked up instinctively and saw Ning Zifeng flying over with his sword. Peerless Sword Immortal Ning Zifeng is here. Netherworld Twin Worms, prepare to die. Ning Zifeng's arrogant laughter rang out, his words filled with contempt. Twin Worms of Netherworld? The 2 demons almost exploded in anger. They took out their magic tools and charged at Ning Zifeng. A huge battle broke out. Halfway up the mountain, Liuwu Demon Wolf, Haotian Boar King, Dade Bear Monarch, and Jingtian Eagle were all startled awake. They walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down, only to see 3 figures emerging from the forest. 3 figures turned into rainbow lights and clashed with each other. Demonic chi dissipated, and sword lights flashed. Should we attack? The Great Earth Bear Monarch asked cautiously. The 3 people fighting below were all very strong, and they made him tremble with fear. Haotian King shook his head and said, "That guy is very powerful. He is enough." When he fought with Ning Zifeng a year ago, he was taught a terrible lesson. Hearing this, the other 3 beasts exchanged glances and quietly watched the battle. Although the tremors at the foot of the mountain were loud, they could not reach the top of the mountain. Other than Zhou Xuanji and Daoya Old Man, no one else could hear the sounds of battle. An hour later, Ning Zifeng returned to the top of the mountain. His body was stained with blood, which surprised the others. "Master, the Huangquan twin devils have been chased away." His expression was a bit ugly. After a great battle, both sides were injured, so how could he be willing? If it wasn't for the Huangquan twin devils being worried about Zhou Xuanji coming to kill him, his life would have been in danger. Zhou Xuanji did not open his eyes and said softly, "Cultivate well and hide your pride in your heart. Do not underestimate any enemy." "Yes." Ning Zifeng cupped his fists and turned to leave. He took a deep breath and memorized Zhou Xuanji's words. Although Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, and the others were curious, they did not ask. They were more concerned about the red Qilin. This fellow ran up and down Skyfall in a frenzied state. "How long does it have to wait before it awakens?" Jiang Shui asked worriedly. She had watched the red Qilin grow up and did not wish for anything to happen to it. Daoya Old Man muttered, "It's hard to say. The fire elemental energy in its body is transforming, which made it so frenzied. Let's wait patiently." Normally, Qilins rarely die during awakening. Once it awakens successfully, it will turn from a sheep into a divine beast, and its power will soar. Han Shenhua asked curiously, "It said that such divine beasts have the power to destroy the world. The phoenix of the Hunyuan Empire was one of them. It could burn an entire city with its flame. I wonder if a Qilin can be compared to a phoenix." The red Qilin was the first divine beast he had ever seen. He had been looking forward to seeing how powerful it would be when it matured. "Of course it can," Daoya Old Man said with a smile as he stroked his long beard. The others were also looking forward to it. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji was still focused on cultivation and did not care about the red Qilin. His mind was filled with world reincarnation. Time passed quickly. Another 4 months passed. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 26 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner obtained bronze, dumb sword, amethyst, deep nightmare sword, glorious gold, right, wrong, justice sword, ancestral dragon sword. The sword spirit's voice came as expected, and Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. 3 legendary swords. The last one should be a sword technique. He could not help but feel interested. Next, the information of the 3 legendary swords appeared before his eyes: sword name, dumb sword grade, bronze description, a sword that specializes in cleaving brains. In the mortal realm, it is the most revered legendary sword in the martial world. Sword name, deep nightmare sword grade, amethyst description, a deep nightmare is hidden in the blade. It can devour the dreams of any living creature. It can also send people into their dreams to slay their enemies in their dreams. Sword name, right, wrong, justice sword grade, glorious gold description, the sword of an ancient saint. It slays evil and evildoers. Violet Qi comes from the east. It distinguishes right and wrong for the world. Dumb sword? Is it serious? Zhou Xuanji's expression was strange. He was quite satisfied with the deep nightmare sword and the right, wrong, justice sword. However, he had a heavenly soul legendary sword now. When would he get a higher grade legendary sword? Intimidating spirit, celestial shaking, god slaying, Armageddon. He was looking forward to it. It was a pity that ever since he obtained the sky extinguishing sword, he had not obtained a second heavenly soul legendary sword. Pass on the ancestral dragon sword to me, Zhou Xuanji instructed in his heart. Since it was named after the ancestral dragon, this sword technique should not be bad, right? Soon, a massive wave of memories entered his mind. His body shuddered and began to organize the memories. A long while later, he opened his eyes and exclaimed, "Such a profound sword technique. It can even be called a divine ability." The ancestral dragon's sword could turn the user into the ancestral dragon, and his battle power would increase tremendously. He immediately began practicing the ancestral dragon sword. Seeing him practicing, Biyao Wangjian, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and Huang Lianxin came over immediately. Ning Zifeng was curious too and came over to watch. Ever since he became Zhou Xuanji's disciple, it was his first time seeing Zhou Xuanji practicing the sword. What sword technique is it this time? It must be powerful. I can't wait. Revered teacher's sword technique will only become more profound. I want to learn. Hearing the four's discussion, Ning Zifeng became even more curious. The ancestral dragon's sword had 380 sword moves. When each move was connected, it would be the dragon's head to the dragon's tail. The user could transform into the ancestral dragon and travel across the world. Of course, the ancestral dragon's power grew along with Zhou Xuanji's cultivation. After 100 times, the ancestral dragon's sword reached small accomplishment. Ning Zifeng's expression changed. He could tell that it was Zhou Xuanji's first time practicing the sword. This speed of improvement was just two. After 300 times, the ancestral dragon's sword reached great accomplishment. After 500 times, the ancestral dragon's sword will was formed. Herr Zhou Xuanji looked up suddenly and let out a long roar. He bent his legs and leaped up. Sword chi surrounded his body and transformed into a giant golden dragon. This golden dragon was hundreds of meters long and looked extremely lifelike, as though a real dragon had descended into the world. Its eyes were majestic, and the scales on its body shone with a golden radiance. Its claws had 5 toes. 5-clawed golden dragon. The golden dragon spiraled above skyfall, and everyone looked up. Their jaws dropped instinctively. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 239. The 5-clawed golden dragon circled around and roared endlessly. The dragon's might that could shake one's soul made a big and small air kneel on the ground and tremble. Chongming demon monarch and the little black snake were so frightened that they sat paralyzed on the ground. Dragon's might vanquished all demons. Before the 5-clawed golden dragon that Zhou Xuanji had transformed into, everyone could feel how insignificant they were. This is, Jiang Shui opened her eyes wide in disbelief. Her Xuanji could transform into a sword, and now he could transform into a dragon? Daoya old man was also shocked. This is a divine ability? He mumbled. It was not a simple transformation technique. He felt that Zhou Xuanji was really like a 5-clawed golden dragon. Moreover, there was something wrong with this dragon's might. It was more powerful than any other demon dragon he had encountered before. He felt like an emperor among dragons. Oh, my God! Ning Zifeng looked at Zhou Xuanji, who was circling above and roaring, and his eyes almost fell to the ground. He slapped himself to make sure that he was not dreaming, and he was even more shocked. What sword technique was this? He could transform into a 5-clawed golden dragon. In the face of this dragon, he actually felt a sense of trepidation. Too powerful. Too powerful. I really want to learn it. I must learn it. Zhao Zongjian clenched his fists and roared in excitement. Xiao Jinghong, Biyao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin's eyes were filled with passion as well. Such a domineering sword technique. If it was any other sword cultivator, it would be difficult for them not to be tempted. Boom! At this moment, skyfall shook violently, and everyone flew up in shock. Roar! A deafening dragon roar shook the heavens and the earth. All the demons within 1,000 miles were alarmed. A 9th-ranked dragon demon is about to be born. Liuwu demon wolf cried out in shock and quickly escaped from skyfall. The people on the mountain peak also thought of a 9th-rank dragon demon. Zhou Xuanji did not return to his original form. Instead, his dragon eyes brightened as he dived into the sea of clouds. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. Halfway up the mountain wall exploded, and a gigantic black dragon's head emerged, followed by its body. Countless black dragon scales flowed with magma, and the dragon's eyes were filled with flames. This black dragon was like an evil dragon that could destroy the world. It emerged from the pillar of heaven and earth, spitting out scorching smoke from its mouth. It was a terrifying sight. The black dragon was nearly 10,000 feet long, and each of its scales was as big as a house. It circled around Skyfall and flew upwards. Liuwu Wolf Demon, Vast Sky Boar King, Great Earth Bear Monarch, Skyshock Eagle, and the other demons that were lurking around were all dumbfounded. Under their watchful eyes, a 5-clawed golden dragon emerged from the sea of clouds and charged toward the black dragon that was 10,000 feet tall. The two giant dragons, one righteous and one evil, quickly collided. Roar, roar, the two dragons coiled around each other, biting and tearing at each other. Their claws clawed at each other's bodies, and dragon scales fell off one after another. The golden dragon scale quickly turned into sword chi and dissipated, while the black dragon scale smashed into the forest. It was as if a heavy object had smashed down, causing the trees to sway unsteadily. The black dragon looked much bigger than the 5-clawed golden dragon, but it did not have the upper hand. A white dragon coiled around the 5-clawed golden dragon, and the dragon's aura grew tremendously. If one looked closely, they would see two swords levitating in front of the 5-clawed golden dragon's horns. White Dragonbone Sword. Sky Extinguishing Sword. With the support of the two legendary swords, Zhou Xuanji's power grew tremendously, and the massive black dragon could not retaliate at all. The black dragon opened its mouth and breathed out billowing flames, along with magma. However, the flames did not cause much damage to the 5-clawed golden dragon. The 5-clawed golden dragon opened its mouth as well, and streaks of sword chi shot out from its mouth like a torrential downpour, slamming into the black dragon's body. Clang! 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 The sword chi landed on the dragon's scale, and it sounded like metal striking metal, producing a clear and crisp sound. The black dragon was pressed down toward the ground. At the same time, Daoya Old Man, Jiang Shui, Ning Zifeng, and the others descended from the sea of clouds. When they saw the battle between the two dragons, they all opened their eyes wide. A 9th-rank demon dragon. Such a powerful demon was hiding in Skyfall. Ning Zifeng cried out in shock, his face filled with shock. He had stayed in Skyfall for more than a year, but he did not notice it at all. Is this brat powerful enough to defeat a 9th-rank demon so easily? Daoya Old Man mumbled. He could only deal with 8th-rank demons, and a 9th-rank demon could easily crush him. Even though they were far apart, the aura of the two dragons still made him tremble with fear. The others cried out in shock too. Everyone had been cultivating together, so why did Zhou Xuanji's power increase so quickly? Boom! The black dragon crashed into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust that was hundreds of meters high. The ground crumbled, and rocks and soil were swept up. A violent gale blew in all directions. The 5-clawed golden dragon pressed the black dragon onto the ground and roared domineeringly. Who are you, this dragon's might? The black dragon spoke human language and cried out in fear. Its hoarse voice was filled with an indescribable might. I'm the ancestral dragon, and the ancestral dragon is me. You dare to not submit? Zhou Xuanji looked down at it and asked coldly. He could use this opportunity to tame the 9th-rank demon dragon and make it the guardian beast of the mountain. A 9th-stage cultivation base was enough. Ancestral dragon, the black dragon trembled in fear and quickly transformed into his human form. The 5-clawed golden dragon landed on the ground and looked down at him. He was as tall as Chongming Demon Monarch. He was muscular and wore a black robe with dragon scales. 2 dragon horns grew out of his long hair, and his face was majestic. Thin lines that looked like magma covered his face. "Greetings, dragon ancestor. Please forgive me," the black dragon said fearfully. Right after he spoke, Zhou Xuanji transformed back into his original form. His purple robe and black hair danced in the wind, making him look extremely handsome. "I'm Zhou Xuanji. From today onwards, you will be my mount, the guardian beast of Skyfall. Are you willing?" Zhou Xuanji looked down at him and asked. "I'm willing," the black dragon said joyfully. As long as he was allowed to stay in Skyfall, he was naturally willing. Moreover, Zhou Xuanji was really powerful. He accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. "What's your name?" Zhou Xuanji asked in a pleasant mood. The ancestral dragon's sword was really powerful. It was definitely a heaven-grade sword technique. It could be an advanced or even a top-tier one. "My name is Fenyu Dragon King." The black dragon knelt on the ground and replied respectfully. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and asked, "Self-proclaimed?" Fenyu Dragon King was embarrassed and did not know how to answer. Zhou Xuanji did not bother to argue with him. He brought him up the mountain and gathered everyone together. Everyone was curious about Fenyu Dragon King. The little black snake was so frightened that he did not dare to speak and pretended to be dead. The black dragon meeting the black dragon was like meeting its ancestor. "At most a year. I plan to bring all of you down the mountain and into the world. We will search for talented disciples in the sword's way." Zhou Xuanji looked around at everyone and said. He planned to use world internalization to increase his cultivation. World internalization could absorb the spirit energy of all things to increase one's cultivation. It was much faster than arduous cultivation. Taking advantage of the chaos of war, one could discover many heartless and unjust people. While increasing one's cultivation, one could also eliminate evil for the world. However, world internalization could not be used continuously. One needed to comprehend one's cultivation level after all. Too much spirit energy would cause one's body to explode. Don't you see, there are so many evil cultivators who went astray because they absorbed other people's spiritual power, never to be reincarnated? Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 240. So urgent? Xiao Jinghong asked with a frown. It was not easy for them to stop and cultivate, but now they had to go out again. Zhou Xuanji thought about it carefully and realized that it made sense. These were his trusted subordinates. If he wasn't strong enough, it would be hard for him to convince the masses when he established his own sect. He muttered, "How about this, when the time comes, we'll split into two groups. Those with lower cultivations will stay and cultivate." No one had any objections. This was the best arrangement. Chongming Demon Monarch muttered, "What if someone attacks Skyfall? What should we do?" He glanced at Beixiao Wangjian, Zhao Congjian, and the others. His gaze was clearly saying, "Can you weaklings block him?" Fenyu Dragon King said, "With me here, no one will harm you." This was an opportunity to make a contribution. Ning Zifeng snorted. "Who would believe you? You just joined." Fenyu Dragon King glared at him and said solemnly, "Is the dragon tribe a bunch of treacherous people? I have already become the dragon ancestor's slave, and I have no regrets in my life." After saying this, he knelt and kowtowed to Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji waved his hand and lifted him up with spirit energy. This matter needs to be discussed. Right now, the human and demon races are facing a great crisis. If we hide here, we won't be able to get through it safely. At the same time, we can draw our swords to help and save the humans and demons in the sea of bitterness. Zhou Xuanji said softly, which made Xiao Jinghong and Zhao Congjian's eyes sparkle. The two of them cherished the lives of the common people. When they heard his words, they were immediately moved. Ning Zifeng said, "In any case, I will go wherever Master goes." His mind was filled with thoughts about the ancestral dragon sword. At this moment, he had the same thought as Zhao Congjian. Jiang Shui hugged Zhou Xuanji's arm and said, you must bring me along. I'm not weak now. He was proficient in all 5 elemental spells and could even cast healing spells. It would not be a problem for him to charge into a dynasty alone. Zhou Xuanji stretched out his hand and touched the bridge of her nose. Okay, he said with a smile. Without Jiang Shui by his side, he would not be at ease. Everyone's topic shifted to the ancestral dragon sword, but Zhou Xuanji only said that it was a sword technique. Xiao Jinghong, Ning Zifeng, and the others all wanted to learn. He was not stingy and demonstrated his sword moves on the spot. Without the supreme legendary sword system, it would be extremely difficult for them to master the ancestral dragon sword. Even with Zhao Zongjian and Ning Zifeng's talents, they would need at least 100 years. Ning Zifeng was extremely touched. He instantly had the urge to die for a bosom friend. Ever since he was born, no one had ever treated him so generously. Such a peerless sword technique was taught without any hesitation. He was not afraid that Zhou Xuanji would plot against him because he learned it together with Xiao Jinghong and the others. Master, words cannot express my gratitude. From now on, my life is yours. Ning Zifeng cupped his fists and bowed towards Zhou Xuanji. In response, Zhou Xuanji waved his hand and did not mind. The more casual he was, the more popular he was. This was a true grandmaster of the way of the sword. He wasn't simple, just open-minded, and didn't need to scheme against others. Just like that, the team had another 9th-tier greater demon. Finyu Dragon King broke out of the mountain, causing a huge hole to appear in the middle of the mountain. Under his lead, Chongming Demon Monarch, the little black snake, the 3-eyed drought rodent, a big and small heir walked into the mountain to play. The red Qilin was still in the process of awakening. It curled up into a ball and was brought into Skyfall by Finyu Dragon King. According to Finyu Dragon King, there was magma in the mountain, which could strengthen the fire element in the Qilin's body. Zhou Xuanji entered cultivation again. Time passed quickly. Half a year passed. Zhou Xuanji broke through to astral projection level 9. He flew out from the cauldron, stretched his waist, and put on the rui purple cloud robe. Daoya Old Man stood beside him and sighed in amazement, "Your cultivation speed is too outrageous. You're the ultimate treasure in the world indeed." At this rate, Zhou Xuanji could break through to the Great Realization stage in 100 years. By then, what rank would he be in the Northern Wilderness top 100? He might even be in the top 10. Just thinking about it made him exclaim in amazement. "It's all right. How's your intelligence gathering?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Last night, a group of cultivators passed by 10 miles away. He was still cultivating in the cauldron, so he asked Daoya Old Man to go and ask them. It was only a moment ago that Daoya Old Man returned. The war between the two races was tragic, and there were countless casualties. Great Shang's Fury Buddha was besieged by 3 9th-rank great demons and almost died. Now, Great Shang has lost more than half of its territory. The other sects went to provide reinforcements. Daoya Old Man began to speak with a sigh. Great Shang was in danger, but so were Great Zhou and Great Qin. The Donghan Empire, Hunyuan Empire, Jibei Empire, and Dafeng Empire had already sent reinforcements. Among the humans, more and more powerful cultivators were severely injured. Of course, it was the same for the demons. But looking at the overall situation, the humans were in a disadvantageous position. "Where's Xian Xianghua?" Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. With Xian Xianghua's personality, she should have already fought with Jihuang Demon Lord. Daoya Old Man sighed with a complicated expression. She lost, but she and Jihuang Demon Lord were both severely injured. Now, her whereabouts are unknown. Thanks to her, the humans can take a breather. This matter was quite ironic. The humans' pursuers helped the humans instead. But no one was grateful to Xian Xianghua and treated her like a lunatic. She and Jihuang Demon Lord were both severely injured, and the humans thought that she deserved it. Zhou Xuanji frowned even more. He took out 2 Armageddon stones and said softly, "These are Armageddon stones. They will explode upon contact with spirit energy. They are powerful enough to kill a great realization cultivator. Keep them to protect yourself." Deoya old man heard him and opened his eyes wide. Aren't these 2 pieces of jade? They can kill a great realization cultivator? He stored them carefully and asked, "Are you ready to depart?" Even if Zhou Xuanji did not say who to use the Armageddon stones against, he had his own considerations. It was either an enemy or Fenyu Dragon King. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "After the red Qilin awakens, I will depart. I will bring it, Jiang Shui, and Zi Feng." The others stayed behind at Skyfall to cultivate. Deoya old man muttered, "Let's ask them. Maybe they all want to follow us? Aren't you taking in disciples? We need someone to take care of them along the way." Zhou Xuanji thought about it and realized that it was right. No matter how powerful he was, if he had too many disciples, he might overlook them. He immediately gathered everyone. And everyone wanted to follow him. "We have discussed. Even if we cultivate here, it will be difficult for us to catch up to our revered teacher. Why don't we go and help our revered teacher? Once we have more disciples, we will have more eyes and can keep an eye on them. At the same time, we can help manage them in batches and teach them sword techniques," Xiao Jinghong explained. They had discussed this in private. With Zhou Xuanji's capability, he would return in at most 10 years. How much stronger would they be after 10 years? It would be bad if Zhou Xuanji's other trusted aides appeared by his side and pushed them aside. They might as well start from scratch and help the sect to build up its prestige. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "You guys have thought it through. You did not disappoint me. All right, after the red Qilin awakens, we will depart." He was looking forward to establishing his own sect. From a few people to a few dozen, tens of thousands, millions. And finally, a sanctum. Ascending together. But here came the problem. What should the sect be called? Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 241. What do you think our sect should be named? Zhou Xuanji sat down cross-legged and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He asked with a frown, looking worried. Northern Sword Valiant said excitedly, "Sword Emperor Sect." Everyone rolled their eyes at him. What a vulgar name. Can't you have some substance? Huang Lianxin shook her head, and then she suggested, "How about Myriad Sword Court?" Zhou Xuanji was determined to be invincible in the world with 10,000 swords. This was the meaning behind the name of the sect. Why don't we call it 10,000 Swords Divine Sect? How about the Immortal Sword Sect? None of them are good. Let's call it Azure Sky Sword Sect. Invincible Sword Master? Let's call it Great Thousand Sword Sect. Everyone voiced their opinions one after another, each more excited than the last. Zhou Xuanji was in deep thought and remained unmoved. Deoya old man stroked his beard and smiled. There's no rush. Let's think about it slowly. After all, we are the only ones in the entire sect. Ning Zifeng asked curiously, what's the goal of this sect? He hoped that Zhou Xuanji's ambition would be bigger, and it would be best if it was not just limited to the northern wilderness region. After all, he still had to return to the chaotic Tide Sea. If at that time, Zhou Xuanji could become his backer, that would be wonderful. Number 1 in the world, let's ascend together. Zhou Xuanji replied without hesitation. He had been thinking about ascending for a long time. Up until now, not a single sect had been able to ascend together. He felt that if he did that, he would shock the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries. It would be very satisfying. If he wanted to do it, he had to do something that no one had ever done before. Hearing this, Ning Zifeng's eyes lit up, and the rest felt their blood boiling. Together, they would ascend to the top of the world. They would ascend together and pursue the immortal Tao. On the path of cultivation, one had to be bold and do things that others didn't dare to think about. Prepare well. Once the red Qilin awakens, we will descend the mountain. Finally, Zhou Xuanji ordered. When the time came, he would leave Fenyu Dragon King behind to guard Skyfall. He took back a piece of Apocalypse from Daoya Old Man for Fenyu Dragon King. Fenyu Dragon King was overjoyed when he found out about the ability to destroy the world. He was very moved and kowtowed to Zhou Xuanji 10 times before getting up. Following this, Zhou Xuanji gathered Dade Bear Monarch, Haotian Boar King, Liuwu Wolf Demon, and Jingtian Eagle. After they left, the 4 demons would be free, and it would be up to them to decide where they would go. Zhou Xuanji chatted with them for an hour before leaving. 2 months later, the red Qilin finally awakened successfully. It came to the top of the mountain, and Fenyu Dragon King followed closely behind. Everyone's gaze turned to him. His entire body was wrapped in raging flames, and the surface of his body was similar to Fenyu Dragon King's true form. There were many fine lines of lava, and his shoulders were several feet tall, looking mighty and domineering. It circled around Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui energetically. Master. It let out a childish voice, like a little boy. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and said with a smile, "You can even speak human language." Not bad. He glanced at Ada, Small Air, and the 3-eyed drought rodent. The 3 demons lowered their heads in grievance. What a cute voice. Jiang Shui cried out in pleasant surprise. She wanted to reach out to touch the red Qilin, but this fellow's entire body was covered in flames, so she couldn't touch it. Master, quickly give me a name. I want my surname to be Zhou. The red Qilin said excitedly. After that, it stopped in front of Zhou Xuanji and lay down like a dog trying to act cute. Daoya Old Man clicked his tongue in wonder and said, "Level 5 right after awakening. Not bad, much stronger than some earthworms." The little black snake almost vomited blood. He was extremely frustrated. It was not that the red Qilin was ridiculously talented. It was just that the Qilin race took a long time to gestate. It was not surprising for the Qilin race to gestate for a few hundred years. Ning Zifeng was also observing the red Qilin curiously. The others surrounded the red Qilin and discussed excitedly. They had watched this little guy grow up. "You shall be called Zhou Xiaoqi." Zhou Xuanji muttered. The red Qilin heard him and jumped up in excitement. And now, the red Qilin had its own name. Zhou Xiaoqi. The group packed up and prepared to depart. An hour later, they left under the gazes of Fenyu Dragon King, Haotian Boar King, Liuwu Wolf Demon, Dade Bear Monarch, and Jingtian Eagle. After they disappeared into the horizon, Fenyu Dragon King turned around and looked at the 4 8th-rank demons. After Master leaves, we must protect Skyfall during this period of time. Do you understand? Fenyu Dragon King said solemnly. A baleful aura emanated from his eyes, making him look majestic. Understood. The 4 demons cried out in unison. Each of them had different thoughts in mind. After flying for 8 hours, they left the endless forest. In front of them was a mountainous area with few trees and hills. The group landed and began walking forward. Without Zhou Xuanji's instruction, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others began practicing their sword techniques. Ning Zifeng saw them and began practicing as well. He was practicing the ancestral dragon sword. Dual sword wills were too difficult. He had already given up and began practicing the ancestral dragon sword day and night. But even if he succeeded, he would not be as powerful as Zhou Xuanji. The ancestral dragon was the monarch of dragons. Zhou Xuanji had monarchical violet qi, so the ancestral dragon he cultivated was naturally the most powerful. In the group, no one else had monarchical violet qi other than him. Will we run into human enemies? Han Shenhua asked anxiously. If they encountered demons, they would surely kill them. If they encountered humans, it might be the same case. Don't worry. The humans are busy fighting the demons now. Even if someone recognizes Zhou Xuanji, they will not dare to attack. Daoya old man waved his hand and smiled. There were not many humans who could defeat Zhou Xuanji. Including those who hid in the deep mountains and forests, there were less than 100 of them. Xuanji, how powerful are you now? Jiang Shui asked out of curiosity. After mastering the ancestral dragon sword, Zhou Xuanji's power increased again. Having heard her, he muttered, I'm not sure either. I should be a little weaker than Chief Monk Xuanhe. Although Chief Monk Xuanhe looked weak before Xian Xianghua, he was actually very powerful. The title of the top monk in the northern wilderness region was not just for show. When Master breaks through to the spirit refinement stage, his power will grow tremendously, Ning Zifeng said with a smile. The difference between the spirit refinement stage and the astral projection stage was huge. It was like the difference between clouds and mud. Zhou Xuanji had already reached astral projection level 9 and was very close to the spirit refinement stage. The group could not help but look forward to seeing how powerful Zhou Xuanji would be after breaking through to the spirit refinement stage. At this moment, Huang Lianxin flew back on small air. 100 miles ahead, there's a demon army attacking the city. She cried out from the sky, and Zhou Xuanji and the others looked up. Under the blue sky, a majestic stone city was located among the mountains. Demons were attacking the city walls from all directions. Even the flying demons were attacking from the sky. Soldiers stood on the city walls. Cultivators could be seen on the buildings and on the stone roofs. The entire city was at war. Many elderly, weak, women, and children were crying in their houses and on the streets. Corpses were piled up a few meters high in front of the city gate. There were human corpses and demon corpses. Blood flowed like a river, and it looked like hell on earth. Hold on. An old general in armor raised his sword and roared. Looking toward where he was looking, countless demons were charging toward them like a tidal wave. Before the first wave subsided, another wave rose, determined to destroy the city gate. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 242. Children, charge for me. Haha. A 15-meter-tall demon with a tiger's head and a human's body roared. His face was ferocious, and he held a huge blade in his hand. The blade was stained with blood, and his baleful aura soared into the sky. With that, thousands of demons charged towards the stone city one after the other. The old general on the city wall had a terrible look on his face. His eyes were filled with despair. In the face of such an attack, their city would definitely be breached. Now that the humans and demons were at war, no one would come to their aid. Is our stone forest city going to perish just like that? The old general mumbled to himself. The soldiers beside him heard him and trembled. Fear and despair enveloped their hearts. Death was not scary. What was scary was waiting for death with no hope. Humph. At this moment, a cold snort came. Next, a beam of sword light illuminated the entire battlefield. PFFTT. PFFTT. PFFTT, countless demons were chopped into minced meat. Even the great demon was split into two by the sword chi. Within 3 breaths' time, all the demons in front of the city gate were dead. Everyone was stunned. The other demons opened their eyes wide and could not believe their eyes. Before they could react, numerous legendary swords flew toward them with incredible speed and killed the demons one after another. Run! A powerful cultivator is attacking. So many swords. Which sword sect is it? Such a horrifying sword chi. How can this be? The demons cried miserably. Even though they were fleeing in panic, they were not as fast as the legendary swords. Everyone in the stone city raised their heads and stared at the scene with their mouths agape. Dozens of legendary swords chasing after the demon army. This scene would forever be engraved in their hearts. Unforgettable. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji and the others walked over from the horizon. Master's control over swords is beyond my reach, Ning Zifeng said with admiration. He tried to control multiple swords before, but he could not let each sword move independently. He had never admired someone so much in the sword's way. This admiration had already turned into worship in his heart. Start recruiting disciples after we enter the city. Focus on quality and not quantity. Do you understand? If you encounter someone with special talents, you can make an exception and accept them. Zhou Xuanji looked at Stone Forest City and said with a smile. Everyone nodded with anticipation in their eyes. There should be geniuses in such a big city, right? After a while. When the team arrived at Stone Forest City's gates, the old general and several thousand injured soldiers were already waiting for them. Their faces were filled with excitement as they knelt in unison. Thank you for your help, seniors. The old general said gratefully. Tears streamed down his face as he kowtowed continuously. No need to be so polite. Tell me about the situation in your city. Zhou Xuanji nodded. The soldiers looked at Zhou Xiaoqi, big and small air in fear. Especially big and small air, they were like two small mountains, truly frightening. The old general didn't hide anything. He was the city lord. This city didn't belong to any dynasty and was isolated from the rest of the world. However, the great battle between the two clans had affected them as well. Stone Forest City had existed for nearly 3,000 years, and the strongest cultivator in the city was at the Leaving Aperture realm. However, that expert had recently been summoned back by the sect, leaving Stone Forest City unprotected. After hearing him out, Zhou Xuanji said straightforwardly, how about we stay in Stone Forest City for 10 days? Temporary residence? The old general frowned instinctively. Although this group of people saved Stone Forest City, who could be sure that they had no ill intentions? Don't worry. We are recruiting disciples in the sword's way. When they reach great accomplishment, they will be the support of Stone Forest City. Zhou Xuanji continued, which made the old general pleasantly surprised. Because Stone Forest City was isolated from the rest of the world, there were not many cultivation orthodoxies in Stone Forest City. No problem, of course. The old general held back his excitement and said before bringing Zhou Xuanji and the others into the city. And so, Zhou Xuanji and the others entered Stone Forest City. Along the way, many people came to thank them. The entire Stone Forest City was in ruins. Corpses, limbs, and bloodstains were everywhere. It was a horrifying sight. With the old general's arrangement, they stayed in an intact residence. On that day, the news of the sword sect recruiting disciples spread across the entire city. After witnessing the great battle, everyone fell in love and went crazy. Within 2 hours, a long queue formed in front of the residence. In the courtyard, Zhou Xuanji, Jiang Shui, and Huang Lianxin sat in a stone pavilion and drank tea. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and Ning Zifeng stood side by side outside the pavilion to assess the people who came to seek the Tao. Chongming Demon Monarch, Zhou Xiaoqi, the little black snake, big and small air, and Daoya Old Man watched the show from the side. Beixiao Wangjian and Han Shenbo went to the city to gather information about the humans and demons. Have you practiced the sword before? Yes, show me a sword technique. Okay, Ning Zifeng instructed emotionlessly. The skinny young man in front of him was extremely nervous. He drew his sword with his trembling right hand and began to perform a sword technique. It was very awkward. It was obvious that he did not practice the sword often. Xiao Jinghong and Zhao Zongjian each had a person practicing the sword. They gave them pointers to see how perceptive these people were. But it was a pity that the three of them did not make any significant progress. They were eventually persuaded to quit and were replaced by the next batch. I wonder how many of them will pass. Jiang Shui said as she supported her chin. Seeing how serious Xiao Jinghong and the others were, she wanted to laugh. Before Zhou Xuanji, they were like little lambs. The contrast was too great. Huang Lianxin smiled and said, "It's good enough that there are 5 people." These three guys are extremely talented in the sword's way after all. It's not easy to gain their recognition. Zhou Xuanji did not interrupt. At first, he watched with interest, but he soon lost interest and began to cultivate. At the entrance of the courtyard, those who were waiting for the assessment were discussing softly. Is that a dragon eagle? Two of them. Could he be sword god Zhou? It's really possible. Look, there are two girls in the stone pavilion. They are just like the rumors. Great. In the entire world, no one can compare to Zhou Xuanji in the sword's way. Isn't he the vice suzerain of Tanhua sect? Tanhua sect is not a sword sect. Those are all rumors. I said long ago that Zhou Xuanji is righteous and will not follow evil. Zhou Xuanji and the others could hear these voices, but they were indifferent. They did not think about hiding their identities. It was near night, and the assessment continued. Beixiao Wangjian and Han Shenbo returned and told Zhou Xuanji all the information they had gathered. Jihuang Demon Lord had already come out from his seclusion and ordered the demons to attack again. He went to the merciful Melody Cliff personally and destroyed this sanctum, which greatly damaged the morale of the humans. The other 7 sanctums were furious. They worked together to capture Jihuang Demon Lord. However, Jihuang Demon Lord had 9 9th-rank great demons with him, and one of them surpassed 9th rank. It was difficult for them to get close to him. What was worth mentioning was that Huangquan Drake King helped Jihuang Demon Lord, which put the humans in a more dangerous situation. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 243. It's Huangquan Drake King again. This old dragon is really cunning. Chongming Demon Monarch cursed. Last time at Tanhua sect, Huangquan Drake King ambushed them too. After they left Tanhua sect, the old dragon sent the Huangquan twin devils to hunt them down. How despicable. As a demon, Chongming Demon Monarch did not have much sense of belonging. He only wanted to live. Zhou Xuanji's eyes were cold. Ever since they parted at Juadi Cliff, Huangquan Drake King had his eyes on him. Since they were enemies, he had to think of a way to eliminate Huangquan Drake King. However, Huangquan Drake King was ranked 5th in the world and was not easy to deal with. Beixiao, help me with the assessment too. Save time. Zhou Xuanji instructed. He planned to take the assessment through the night and leave as soon as possible. Having heard that, Beixiao Wangjian nodded and walked to Zhao Zongjian's side. That guy over there, come here. Beixiao Wangjian shouted, looking like he was not to be trifled with. Jiang Shui looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked, if you face Huangquan Drake King, do you have a chance of winning? Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, before I meet him, I will make myself confident. World internalization was his confidence. Seeing that he was so confident, Jiang Shui smiled as well. That night, Zhou Xuanji's identity spread across the entire city. No one felt resentful because of this. After all, Zhou Xuanji had saved them and was their savior. For 3 days, they did not find any good seedlings. Until this day. A young man performed a black-grade intermediate tier sword technique, which caught everyone's attention. This young man was quite handsome. He wore a blue shirt and had a frivolous smile on his face. How about it? I'm quite talented, right? I want to be sword god Zhou's disciple. He said proudly, ignoring Xiao Jinghong and the others. Arrogant. Beixiao Wangjian stared at him and said, you're overthinking. You're not even qualified to be our disciple. The young man in blue was still smiling proudly and said, Su Yang, am very powerful. I'm 29 years old this year, and I'm already at Soul Fountain level 9. With this, the people who were queuing up were in an uproar. Apparently, they had not heard of Su Yang's name. But he was already at Soul Fountain level 9 at such a young age. Zhou Xuanji did not look at Su Yang but focused on cultivating. Spar with me without using spiritual energy. Xiao Jinghong raised his sword and smiled. Su Yang immediately agreed. The two of them sparred in the courtyard. In less than 10 moves, Su Yang was defeated. Northern Sword Valiant mocked, "Brat, have you seen your own strength clearly?" The little black snake came over and giggled, "Biyao, are you jealous of his talent?" Biyao Wangjian was furious and wanted to step on it, but it dodged. Su Yang picked up his sword with an unwilling look on his face. "Actually, you can accept him." Daoya Old Man suddenly sent a telepathic message to Zhou Xuanji. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji looked at him in confusion. He revealed a strange smile and transmitted his voice, "This child is not simple. Although his talent is not outstanding, his identity is special. His fate is very complicated, and he should be the reincarnation of an ancient powerhouse. If he is nurtured, once he awakens, he will definitely become a great battle force." Reincarnation of a mighty figure? Zhou Xuanji was surprised in his heart, but he said, "Okay, take him in. Jinghong, you will teach him in the future." Xiao Jinghong cupped his fists and said, "Understood." Su Yang was immediately excited. Just when he was about to speak, Xiao Jinghong glared at him and said, "Go back and prepare. You will leave with us in a few days." Su Yang quickly walked behind him and chuckled, "I was just passing by this city. There's nothing to pack. Fortunately, you guys are here, or else I would have died here. It would be such a waste." This guy was obviously a chatterbox. "Brat, come and have a chat." Chongming Demon Monarch, who was sitting on the ground, waved his hand and smiled. His smile was full of deep meaning. Su Yang did not put up his guard and walked up to him. At the same time, the recruitment of disciples continued. Time passed quickly. 7 days later, they recruited 8 disciples. There were 6 males and 2 females. The oldest was more than 200 years old, and the youngest was 22. Including Su Yang, there were 9 disciples in total. Thousands of soldiers sent them off respectfully, and they left Stone Forest City. Other than Su Yang, the other 8 were very restrained. And so, Su Yang became their leader. This guy was very lively and dared to argue with the little black snake and Biyao Wangjian. Ever since he was defeated by Xiao Jinghong, he became very respectful toward Xiao Jinghong. As for Zhou Xuanji, he was in awe. Because from the beginning to the end, he had not spoken a single word to Zhou Xuanji. The sense of distance made him revere Zhou Xuanji. "Let's start training." Zhou Xuanji, who was walking in front, said, which stunned Su Yang and the other disciples. They stopped instinctively and realized that Zhou Xuanji and the others were still moving forward, so they quickly caught up. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, Biyao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, and Ning Zifeng walked to the side of the group and began swinging their swords. Training as they walked. The 9 new disciples opened their eyes wide. "Hurry up and catch up." Chongming Demon Monarch stared at them and shouted. The 9 were so frightened that they quickly drew their swords. Their addition made the group look majestic. Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin were full of smiles. Although it was just the beginning, they had already imagined the scene of 10,000 people training. One day, their sect would become so powerful that it could stand shoulder to shoulder with the sanctums. If we continue in this direction, which empire or powerful faction is the closest? Zhou Xuanji asked Daoya Old Man. Only by encountering powerful enemies could he truly become powerful. Daoya Old Man muttered, "It should be Dongyuan Temple." After Xuanhe was suppressed, Dongyuan Temple could still hold on for a while. There are many senior monks in the temple, as well as many old immortals. Dongyuan Temple. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Just like that, everyone strolled forward. Along the way, Xiao Jinghong taught his 9 disciples the 36 paths Jade Xiao sword technique, which was enough for them to practice for a few years. In the blink of an eye. Several months passed. Analyze that the sword owner has reached 27 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained gold, sunset sword, amethyst, elegant sky star's word, and 5 elements divine staff. The sword spirit's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind, and he narrowed his eyes. At this moment, they were walking above the canyon. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the rest were still practicing their swordsmanship behind them. Information about the 2 swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Sunset Sword level, gold, description, the sword of a peerless swordsman. It has the ability to restrain evil spirits. Sword name, Heavenly Elegant Starlight Sword grade, amethyst description. This sword contains light attribute energy and can emit a bright light that is even more dazzling than the sun. Make do. Zhou Xuanji was not too surprised, and he took out the 5 elements divine staff. It was a piece of jade wood that was 5 feet long. A purple crystal was embedded at the tip, making it look extremely beautiful. He directly handed the 5 elements divine staff to Jiang Shui and said, "This is your birthday present." Jiang Shui took the 5 elements divine staff and was pleasantly surprised. "Be careful, there's killing intent ahead." Ning Zifeng, who was walking at the front, suddenly spoke with a solemn tone. Chapter 244. Killing Intent? Everyone turned their heads and looked along the cliff of the canyon. At the end of the horizon, thunderclouds covered the horizon, as if a storm was coming. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and saw a person sitting on a hill in the distance. That person's hair was disheveled and his hands were placed on his knees with his palms facing up. The black robe on his body continuously fluttered and strands of demonic energy seeped out like raging flames on his body. Despite the flashes of lightning in the sky, he did not waver. He slowly opened his eyes and looked into the distance as he muttered, "Zhou Xuanji, you're finally here." He was not in a hurry to get up. Instead, he waited in place. Demonic energy. This person is from the demonic path. Dahlia old man said softly. At the back, Su Yang and the others became nervous. Devil cultivator. Xiao Jinghong furrowed his brows and said, "This person has come with ill intentions. It feels like he has been waiting here for a long time." They immediately thought of Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance. These 2 devil path forces were always able to track their whereabouts very quickly. It should be an enemy. Let me handle it. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. An exquisite golden long sword appeared in his right hand. The sword was 1.2 meters long, and its blade was as wide as an adult's palm. There were many figures carved on it, and it was filled with the aura of history. It was the heavenly elegant starflash sword. Seeing Zhou Xuanji take out his sword, everyone's eyes lit up. Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, and the others were all curious about the new sword. Su Yang and the other disciples were looking forward to seeing Zhou Xuanji's power. Apart from the battle at Stone Forest City, they had never seen Zhou Xuanji fight. The last time was too short. This time, he might be able to witness how powerful sword god Zhou was. "You guys be careful. I'll go meet him first." After saying this, Zhou Xuanji leapt up and flew into the distance like an immortal. Su Yang asked excitedly, "Grandmaster, how many moves do you need to defeat the enemy?" He loved the way of the sword and had long since admired Zhou Xuanji. Ever since the battle at the fallen immortal Heavenly Lake, Zhou Xuanji had disappeared, and there were rumors in the human race that he had died. This matter caused Su Yang to grieve for a period of time. He was about to witness Zhou Xuanji's power, and Su Yang could only feel his blood boiling. "He's a grand ascension cultivator," Ning Zifeng muttered, causing Su Yang to widen his eyes. A Mahayana cultivator could enter the northern wilderness top 100. Meanwhile, Zhou Xuanji came up to the black-robed man, about 100 meters away. He just stared coldly at the other party. He didn't attack immediately, nor did he say anything. "Zhou Xuanji, you really made me wait for a long time." The black-robed man opened his eyes and sneered. His eyes were blood red and his pupils couldn't be seen, making him look like a demon. "Tell me, who are you? How do you know my whereabouts?" Zhou Xuanji asked calmly, and the sky-extinguishing sword appeared in his left hand. With two swords in hand, so what if he was in the Mahayana realm? The black-robed man stood up. "My name is Zhang Kuanglan, have you heard of me?" Zhang Kuanglan. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. He had heard of this name before, but it was not in the top 100 of the northern wilderness because he had died a long time ago. This person was a giant of the Devil Dao 10,000 years ago. At that time, the demon path was led by the Tanhua sect and the Haotian sect. The two sects fought endlessly, and in the end, the ancient Diablo won. The Haotian sect was defeated and split into two sects, Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance. Zhang Kuanglan was one of the Haotian sect's demon lords. "Aren't you dead?" Zhou Xuanji asked with a deep voice. This person did not give him much of a sense of danger, unlike the ancient demon sovereign Zhang Kuanglan. Zhang Kuanglan said with a cold face, "You killed so many disciples of Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance. If I didn't come out, the descendants of the Haotian sect would have died in your hands." After that, he raised his right hand. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts descended from the thunderclouds and gathered in his palm. Lightning wrapped around his body. At this moment, he turned into a god of lightning, standing tall between the heavens and the earth. A horrifying might swept across the heavens and earth. Zhang Kuanglan. Haotian sect's thunder demon sovereign, Daoya old man's expression was unsightly as he mumbled to himself, which made the others shudder in fear. Haotian sect. That was an ancient demonic sect that only existed in legends. The thunder demon sovereign was also recorded in many ancient books. In the mortal realm, it was used to scare crying children. Thunder demon sovereign. Didn't he die long ago? Su Yang asked anxiously. He began to worry for Zhou Xuanji. Jiang Shui became even more anxious. How powerful was this old demon? Is it that exaggerated? Isn't he only at the great realization stage? Ning Zifeng asked as he scratched his head. Although he knew that he could not defeat Zhang Kuanglan, he felt that Zhou Xuanji would have no problem. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Zhang Kuanglan were still confronting each other. Do your Haotian sect still have many powerful cultivators who are still alive and hiding in the dark, waiting to come out again? Zhou Xuanji asked. His aura had already been raised to the peak, and it was not any weaker than Zhang Kuanglan's. He did not expect the Haotian sect to hide so deeply. No wonder Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance could bury the hatchet so quickly even though they were like fire and water. So it was all an act. You are a dead man anyway. Why do you care so much? Zhang Kuanglan snorted coldly. As he spoke, he slapped toward Zhou Xuanji with his right hand. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts turned into a phoenix and clawed at Zhou Xuanji. The lightning phoenix had a wingspan of hundreds of meters. It was majestic and unparalleled. Zhou Xuanji raised the sky-extinguishing sword and slashed. Sky-dominating divine sword. With a flash of sword light, Zhou Xuanji destroyed the lightning phoenix with one slash. It was extremely domineering. Zhou Xuanji charged toward Zhang Kuanglan. Good timing. Zhang Kuanglan laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with murderous intent. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji raised the heavenly elegant star sword. The blade gave off a brilliant light that was even more dazzling than lightning. Zhang Kuanglan instinctively closed his eyes. Roar, a dragon's roar exploded in his ears, and he instinctively raised his arms to block. Demonic chi wrapped around his body, which was enough to block all attacks. Boom! The powerful light dissipated, and Zhou Xuanji appeared behind Zhang Kuanglan, holding his sword with both hands. The heavens and earth fell silent. Pfff, Zhang Kuanglan suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. His robe was torn, and blood spurted out of his body. He quickly turned around and asked with gritted teeth, "What sword was that? What was that light just now?" Zhou Xuanji's expression was calm as he replied, Tianxiu. It blinded your eyes. Tianxiu. Zhang Guanglan was stunned and a little dumbfounded. Zhou Xuanji once again charged at him. This time, he did not use the heavenly elegant star sword but 10,000 ultimate steps to heavily injure Zhang Guanglan. His speed was incredibly fast, so fast that he was invisible. Zhang Guanglan's body twitched and swayed like a sandbag. Seeing that Zhang Guanglan could not retaliate at all, Xiao Jinghong, Jiang Shui, and the others were incredibly excited. Tianxiu. Such a powerful sword. In that instant, even my vision was blocked. Ning Zifeng said excitedly. He had thought that it was a sword technique. The 9 new disciples' faces were filled with admiration. Facing an ancient demon like this, Zhou Xuanji was still so powerful. How is this possible, my spirit energy? Zhang Guanglan thought to himself in shock. Every time Zhou Xuanji's sword landed on his body, it would absorb his spirit energy. Soon, more than half of his spirit energy had been absorbed. Even though they were separated by the blade, even though his cultivation was higher than Zhou Xuanji's, why? Looks like you went into seclusion for a reason. Your strength is far from your peak. Zhou Xuanji's cold laughter sounded in his ears. He still could not see Zhou Xuanji's figure, and he could only sense his life force and spirit energy quickly fading. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 245. What kind of evil technique are you practicing? Zhang Guanglan asked angrily. He was the lightning devil sovereign, yet he had fallen to such a state. How could he not be angry? But in his heart, there was more sorrow. It would be difficult for the Haotian sect to make a comeback after offending such a genius. Zhou Xuanji stopped in front of him, and the sky-extinguishing sword pierced into Zhang Guanglan's chest. His spirit energy flowed madly into Zhou Xuanji's body. This feeling, Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. He felt that the spirit energy in his body had reached a critical point and could break through at any moment. As expected of a Mahayana realm cultivator. This was the correct way to activate the world Buddha art. Not long after, Zhang Guanglan's body went limp. If he wasn't hanging on the sky-extinguishing sword, he might have fallen to the ground. Zhou Xuanji absorbed all of his spirit energy, and his aura grew explosively, reaching leaving aperture realm level 10. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt as if the world within his body had expanded by 10 times. Spirit energy quickly flowed from his astral infant, inner pellet, and 9 orifices into his muscles and bones. Zhang Guanglan was so angry that he almost coughed up blood, but there was no more blood to spit out. I won't kill you for now. Keeping you alive will be of great use. Zhou Xuanji laughed coldly. So what if he was the ancient demon sovereign? It all depended on the present. He then returned to the group with Zhang Guanglan in tow. Everyone looked at him in worship. He was too strong. My ancestor, please accept my bow. Too domineering. Su Yang knelt down in excitement and kowtowed 3 times to Zhou Xuanji, which made the other 8 disciples speechless. Northern Sword Valiant cursed, bootlicker. Su Yang asked curiously, what's a simp? Northern Sword Valiant began to patiently explain to him the meaning of simps. Zhou Xuanji had Daoya Old Man seal Zhang Guanglan. Only movement was restricted, not cultivation. This won't do. Once his spiritual power recovers, it will be bad. He thought that Zhou Xuanji wanted to obtain information about the Haotian sect from Zhang Guanglan. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, don't worry, I'll look after him. Zhang Guanglan remained silent with a gloomy expression. For the sake of the Haotian sect, he had to endure. Everyone continued forward. Su Yang followed beside Zhang Guanglan, while the little black snake was on the other side. As the Thunder Demon Sovereign, how do you feel right now? Who's more powerful, Ta Tianchen or you? Why hasn't he come out in 10,000 years? Is he afraid of Xian Xianghua? Of course he's afraid. That old witch is #1 in the world. He must be scared shitless. Zhang Guanglan trembled in anger in the face of the mocking duo, but he couldn't do anything about it. Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin covered their mouths and giggled. Zhou Xuanji and Daoya old man walked ahead and chatted about the Haotian sect. I didn't expect Haotian sect to hide so deeply. I have a premonition that Haotian sect will rise in this war between the two races. After all, Xinhao sect and Haoqi alliance contributed a lot to the destruction of Tanhua sect. Daoya old man sighed. He suddenly felt that the world was much more complicated than he had imagined. All this while, he felt that he could control fate and transcend the entire world. But today, the appearance of the ancient demons caused him to be unable to see through them. In other words, our enemies might not only be the top 100 of the northern wilderness, they might even be stronger than them. Zhou Xuanji said softly. If that was really the case, then he could no longer act recklessly and had to be cautious. Daoya old man sighed. Ning Zifeng walked behind them and smiled as he said, "What's so great about Haotian sect? You've never been to the Chaos Tide Sea. Tian's power is truly terrifying. He dominates the entire Chaos Tide Sea and is invincible. I even suspect that he's an immortal god that descended into the mortal realm." When mentioning Tian, his tone was filled with respect. Tian? How is that possible? Which sea region is the Chaos Tide Sea you're talking about? Outside the northern wilderness? Zhang Guanglan suddenly cried out, causing everyone to look over. Zhou Xuanji and the others also looked at him in confusion. Ning Zifeng harumphed and said, "That's right, the Chaos Tide Sea is far away from the northern wilderness." "What do you know about Tian?" The 9 new disciples stared with wide eyes. Ning Zifeng actually came from overseas. Their breathing became ragged. This mysterious sect was truly filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Tian, he's a tribulation. Zhang Guanglan fell into a daze as he muttered to himself. Every 10,000 years, he will descend and slaughter all of the possessors of monarchical violet qi. Back then, many great emperors were forced to ascend, and one of them was even listed as one of the 9 emperors of the Way of the Sword. The ancient Diablo's revered teacher died at Tian's hands. I've never personally seen Tian. When I was born, Tian just happened to have left. Back then, the entire world was talking about him. Speaking to there, he could not help but sigh. His time had already passed. Now, he had become a prisoner, and Tian had once again descended. It was a pity that he did not even have the right to fight against Tian. Ning Zifeng blinked, so Tian was so powerful? The 9 disciples felt incredibly dazed, and they felt as if they had opened the door to a whole new world. Jiang Shui asked out of curiosity, "Before, we also encountered an outlander who caused Grand Teacher to cough up blood and faint. Could that person also be Tian?" Zhang Guanglan frowned and said, "Since ancient times, I've never heard of 2 heavens appearing. It's possible that it's another person from the upper realm. After all, there have been cases of immortals descending into the mortal realm before." "Wait. Why should I explain it to them?" He coldly harumphed and did not say anything else. The group ignored him and began chatting with each other. Chongming Demon Monarch said that Zhou Xuanji had monarchical violet qi, which made Su Yang very excited. He said, "Grand Teacher will surely defeat Tian and shock the world." Beixiao Wangjian rolled his eyes. What a bootlicker. And so, they chatted as they moved forward. Zhang Guanglan's miserable life began. Every time he recovered half of his spirit energy, it would be absorbed by Zhou Xuanji. Once every half a month. 3 months later, Zhang Guanglan was completely exhausted. Zhou Xuanji had already recruited 25 disciples. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others were the first generation of the sect, while Su Yang and the others were the second generation. All of them had outstanding talent. Overall, Zhou Xuanji was quite satisfied. 4 months later, there were 62 second-generation disciples. Some came from villages and towns, while others came from cities. The group was already quite large. All the second-generation disciples were training at the back while moving forward. The scene was majestic and imposing. Training the sword requires the heart. Don't be too concerned about the sword forms. After familiarizing yourself with the sword forms, move according to your heart. Xiao Jinghong stood in front of the second-generation disciples and said as he trained. Even Su Yang, who was usually frivolous, was very serious. Jiang Shui hugged Zhou Xuanji's arm and said with a smile, "Xuanji, how many people do you think we will have when we return?" Zhou Xuanji replied without hesitation, 1,000 should be enough. If there are too many, we will not be able to distribute the resources. To make the disciples loyal, they had to distribute cultivation resources on time, such as spirit pills, spirit stones, and enchanted artifacts. Any powerful cultivator needed a massive amount of resources to be nurtured. Jiang Shui nodded. She felt that 1,000 was more than enough. It would not make Skyfall feel deserted. Senior Sword God Zhou, I have something to ask of you. At this moment, a voice came from the mountains in the west. A lady in a white dress flew over on a black eagle. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 246. Everyone stopped and turned to look. Seeing that it was a female cultivator, Jiang Shui's smile became very subtle. What are you looking at? Let's continue practicing. Northern Sword Valiant shouted, scaring the second-generation disciples into raising their swords and continuing their practice. The female cultivator quickly came before Zhou Xuanji. She leapt off the black condor's back and knelt in front of Zhou Xuanji as she said with a trembling voice, "Senior, please save our Hanin divine sect." Right now, only you can save Hanin divine sect. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji frowned. The expressions of the others became ambiguous as they instantly thought of the number one beauty of Great Shang, Su Xianxian. I have no relationship with your Hanin divine sect. I won't save you. Zhou Xuanji rejected immediately. He did not want to be involved too much. Moreover, he truly had no relationship with the Hanin divine sect. He did not owe Su Xianxian anything. Compared to Su Xianxian, he cared more about Xian Xianghua. Senior, Sect Master Xian is also in the Hanin divine sect. It was our saintess who took her in. She is currently heavily injured, and if the Hanin divine sect is defeated, she will also face danger. The female cultivator said through gritted teeth. Tears welled up in her eyes, making her look pitiful. Xian Xianghua. Hearing this name, Zhou Xuanji looked at her again and asked, "Is this true?" The female cultivator was frightened by his gaze and nervously replied, "It's true." Lead the way. Zhou Xuanji instructed, and the others had no objections. On the other hand, the second-generation disciples were a little nervous. The female cultivator was overjoyed and quickly led the way. Everyone used sword kinesis flight. Their speed was not too fast, as some of the second-generation disciples had just learned sword kinesis flight not long ago. There are so many people here. Should we settle them down in advance? Jiang Shui asked Zhou Xuanji. She was worried that the second-generation disciples would drag him down. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "When the time comes, we will stop in advance. You guys take care of them, and I will go and help them alone. Zifeng will stay behind to protect you." Jiang Shui nodded lightly, then leaned her face against his back and said no more. Zhou Xiaoqi ran through the air, letting out a long whistle from time to time. He seemed very excited, causing the female cultivators to frequently turn around. Is it really a Kirin? The female cultivator inwardly felt quite shocked. Where had Zhou Xuanji obtained such a divine beast? Compared to their saintess green bird, it was of a much higher grade. According to her, the branch of the Hanin divine sect was 10 days away. Recently, news of Zhou Xuanji and the others recruiting disciples had spread, which was why she could find Zhou Xuanji. Under the blue sky, on the grassland, there was a towering city. It was protected by a layer of faint blue light, and countless corpses of both humans and demons were piled up around it. It was a ghastly sight. Tens of millions of demons surrounded the city. Some of them were as large as mountains, while others blotted out the sky. It was a scene that left people in despair. The two ninth-rank great demons sat very close to each other on the stone chairs. One had a lion's head and was burly and domineering. The other had bull horns and was relatively fat and bloated. They were the Shurho demon sovereign and the Patian demon monarch. They were all in the northern wilderness top 100. They had come under orders to kill Xian Xianghua, but they had never expected that they would be stopped by the Hanin divine sect. Such an ancient formation actually fell into the hands of such a small sect. However, they won't be able to hold on for long. The Lion's Roar demon Venerable spoke with a dignified voice. His eyes flickered with a cold light. Patian demon monarch nodded and said with a smile, "As long as we capture Xian Xianghua, we will have made a great contribution." The two demons looked at each other and smiled happily. The surrounding demons prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to interrupt. On the city walls, the cultivators of the Hanin divine sect watched nervously. Most of them were female cultivators. The majority of the Hanin divine sect were women, and even the sect leader was a woman. Su Xianxian and her master Zhang Lanya were also standing on the city wall. "Sigh, are we really going to die here?" Zhang Lanya sighed, her face showing unwillingness. Currently, all the human organizations were in a difficult situation. The Holy Lands had their attention on dynasty, so how could they care about second-rate organizations like theirs? "Master, should we hand over Xian Xianghua?" A female cultivator asked, her eyes flashing. Su Xianxian subconsciously frowned. Zhang Lanya glared at the female cultivator and scolded, "Do you have a brain? Hand over Xian Xianghua, and we will die even more miserably." With Xian Xianghua around, they could still count on the Tanhua sect and Zhou Xuanji for help. If not for Xian Xianghua, the demonic beast army would not have let the matter rest, and they would not have any helpers. The female cultivator felt awkward and quickly lowered her head. At the same time, in the city. Inside a palace. Xian Xianghua sat on a chair with a teacup in her hand. A dignified and noble lady sat on the main seat. She wore a black dress and had a cold and elegant face. She was the sect lord of the Hanin divine sect, Nan Ruyan. "Senior Xian, the demons don't seem to want to kill you and only want to capture you?" Nan Ruyan asked curiously. Otherwise, with Shurho demon sovereign and Patian demon monarch's abilities, they could have razed this city to the ground by force. However, they were evidently afraid of accidentally killing Xian Xianghua, so they had been waiting for the formation to be deactivated. Don't worry. We will be saved." Xian Xianghua lightly lifted her veil and began drinking tea. She did not sense any danger at all. Seeing this, Nan Ruyan calmed down. Other than trusting Xian Xianghua, she had no other choice. On the peak of the mountain, Zhou Xuanji and the others stopped. The female cultivator pointed ahead and said, "Our divine sect is just ahead." In front of them was a boundless grassland. At the end of the horizon, they could vaguely see the silhouettes of some giant birds circling in the air. Zhou Xuanji said, "All of you wait here." Everyone nodded. They all knew their limits. Su Yang waved his fist and said, "Grand Teacher, destroy them." Zhou Xuanji ignored him and looked at Daoya Old Man. "Will the heavenly tribulation move with the person undergoing the tribulation?" Facing his question, Daoya Old Man narrowed his eyes and said, "For most people, it's impossible. However, you have great fate and monarchical violet chi. The heavenly tribulation will not let you off so easily. Simply put, you can do it." Zhou Xuanji gave a slight smile before raising his right hand. Zhang Quanglan was sucked over. He grabbed Zhang Quanglan's neck and began to absorb his spirit energy. Zhang Quanglan, who had become a bag of bones, was convulsing all over, making the others tremble in fear. Soon, Zhou Xuanji put him down before leaping up and rushing towards the end of the grassland. There are 2 9th-rank great demons over there. They're even more powerful than Finyu Dragon King, Ning Zifeng said with a serious expression. There was a trace of excitement in his eyes. He also wanted to participate in the battle, but Zhou Xuanji had orders, so he could only hold it in. The Wind Cutter sword appeared beneath Zhou Xuanji's feet, and numerous legendary swords appeared behind him. He held the right, wrong, and justice sword in his left hand and the sky extinguishing sword in his right. Dozens of legendary swords followed closely behind him. The scene was majestic, and the 65 second-generation disciples felt their blood boiling. So many swords. The rumors are true. Grand Teacher is going to get serious. I'm looking forward to it. So many swords, how do we control them? Did you hear that? There are 2 9th-rank great demons ahead. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 247. Swish. Swish. Swish, dozens of legendary swords flew together, and the sound of the air being torn continuously sounded out, causing the demons on the grassy plains to look over. Shurho Demon Sovereign and Patian Demon Monarch also looked over. What powerful sword chi! Patian Demon Monarch said in surprise. He did not feel any fear and instead looked quite interested. Who would dare to come at such a crucial time? No matter who it was, if they ran into them, they would die. The cultivators on the massive city also noticed Zhou Xuanji's arrival. Seeing so many swords flying over, they quickly guessed the identity of the newcomer. It's Zhou Xuanji. The number 1 genius on the Northern Wilderness Genius ranking, Zhou Xuanji. It's definitely him. His wife Xian Xianghua is in our sect. Looks like we're saved. The enemy has 2 9th-rank great demons. Can Zhou Xuanji deal with them? When has Zhou Xuanji ever lost? The Hanin divine sex cultivators all felt incredibly excited. Su Xianxian felt quite startled. She had never thought that Zhou Xuanji would really come. She had only sent her female disciples to search for Zhou Xuanji because she held on to a trace of hope. After all, the world was so big, and it would be too difficult to find Zhou Xuanji. As for Xian Xianghua, she said that she did not know where Zhou Xuanji was. I'll give you 10 breaths of time to either retreat or die. Zhou Xuanji's cold voice sounded out, and a wave of killing intent swept through the grassy plains like an icy gale, causing the millions of demons to shiver. Patian Demon Monarch said mockingly, unparalleled way of the sword in the northern wilderness, not inferior to the ancient sword emperors. You're Zhou Xuanji? The number 1 genius of the human race. He was on the demon race's must-kill list. The sovereign of the demon race had personally said that if he met this boy, he would immediately kill him. The 2 9th-rank great demons slowly got up, and 2 heaven-soaring killing intent exploded out. The 10 million demon army looked incredibly savage as they stared at Zhou Xuanji. He's Zhou Xuanji. His meat must be very delicious. I want to eat his leg. Be careful, he's very powerful. This boy is the youngest person to enter the Northern Wilderness Top 100. Perhaps eating his meat can increase our bloodline talents. Replenish wherever we eat. The demons laughed wantonly and did not take Zhou Xuanji seriously at all. After all, there were 2 9th-rank great demons, so there was no reason for them to be afraid. Facing such a scene, most people would feel despair and feel fear. Instead, Zhou Xuanji smiled. If that was the case, then we'll kill them all. Heavens! Help me! With a loud cry, Zhou Xuanji's aura exploded out. He charged toward the demon army with his sword without hesitation. There was a loud bang. Sword chi soared into the sky as he transformed into a 5-clawed golden dragon that roared. Thunderclouds suddenly gathered and rolled over. The entire grassland darkened. Seeing the 5-clawed golden dragon, everyone was in an uproar, their eyes wide open. What is this? The five-clawed golden dragon charged into the demon army with dozens of divine swords. Rumble, one demon after another was overturned by the five-clawed golden dragon. The ground collapsed, sending grass and mud flying in an unstoppable manner. Impossible. How can he transform into a dragon? He's not human. Dragon God. Oh my God. Run. What are you running for? Attack together. Kill him. So what if it's a dragon? Tear him to shreds just the same. After a short moment of terror, the demons all leapt at Zhou Xuanji, looking like a swarm of ants climbing onto an elephant. The scene was incredibly majestic. Zhou Xuanji's body could reach the point where sword qi soared into the sky. Every pore on his body gave off sword qi, turning the demons on his body into mincemeat. Blood sprayed into the sky. Shiho Demon Sovereign and Patian Demon Monarch were stunned. Could Zhou Xuanji be the reincarnation of a true dragon? The Hanin divine sex cultivators were completely dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. Su Xianxuan's beautiful eyes widened, unable to believe her eyes. Even Zhang Quanglan and the others in the distance were given a big fright. The second-generation disciples all cried out, especially Su Yang, who was so excited that it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He was simply too domineering. The instant Zhou Xuanji had turned into a dragon, he had given them a massive visual impact, shaking their hearts. Although it's not the first time I've seen him, he's really handsome. Jiang Shui said with an infatuated look on her face. Charging into millions of enemies alone, arrogant and unbridled, this was her man. At the same time, the two ninth-rank great demons took out their weapons and prepared to attack. Boom! A bolt of lightning suddenly descended, hitting the five-clawed golden dragon and turning hundreds of demons into dust. The heavenly tribulation had arrived. Lightning madly descended, causing Zhou Xuanji to continuously howl in pain. Dragon roars continuously sounded out, causing the Hanin divine sex cultivators to feel as if they were deaf. Heavenly tribulation. This boy is using us for his tribulation. Shiho Demon Sovereign furiously roared. He did not retreat and instead advanced, slashing out with his saber. Saber qi shot out. It was hundreds of meters long and killed many demons along the way. It slammed into the five-clawed golden dragon and slashed it in half at the waist. There was no dragon blood, and only the sword qi dissipated. Zhou Xuanji held his two swords and stood on the windcutter sword as he used the 8-step sword lunge. He traveled 1,000 meters with each step and came before Shiho Demon Sovereign. Trisource Vein Severing Sword. The sky-extinguishing sword slashed out, and countless traces of sword qi locked onto Shiho Demon Sovereign. This fellow did not dodge and used his arms to block, using his body to take the sword qi head-on. He was not injured at all. He grinned, giving a terrifying smile as he said, "Stinking brat, do you think that with the help of the heavenly tribulation, you can do whatever you want? You want to save your wife? Keep dreaming." He stretched out his arms and his demonic qi erupted like a volcano, rushing into the sky and turning into intense flames that covered his body. The grassy plains below could not withstand the might and directly collapsed, as if the apocalypse had arrived. He raised his saber and slashed out, using brute force to defeat everything. The God Emperor Sword, White Dragonbone Sword, Phoenix Emperor Sword, and Holy Light Redemption Sword crisscrossed and blocked, but they were sent flying by his saber. However, his saber hilt also trembled. He slightly frowned but did not say anything and continued to attack Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji smirked. The power of these two legendary swords allowed him to fight against great realization experts. His body blurred and he once again used the ancestral dragon sword, turning into a five-clawed golden dragon and slammed out. Bang! Shiho Demon Sovereign used his saber to block the dragon's mouth, but the five-clawed golden dragon's power was simply too terrifying, and it forced him to the ground. He slid backwards and sent up 2 waves of dust. Demons were sent flying, and some were instantly crushed, dying incredibly pitiful deaths. Boom! Patian demon monarch suddenly rushed over from the side, sending the five-clawed golden dragon flying. Shurho demon sovereign stumbled and stabbed his saber into the ground, stabilizing himself. Aren't you crazy? Patian demon monarch's fists were wrapped in blood-colored iron rings as he rained blows on the five-clawed golden dragon's body. Although the five-clawed golden dragon was an ancestral dragon, its cultivation level was too low, so it was unable to retaliate. The Patian demon monarch was not affected even though the heavenly lightning struck him continuously. Zhou Xuanji dispelled the ancestor dragon form, and the instant he landed, he twisted his right leg and used 10,000 ultimate steps, his body shooting like an arrow. Puchi. The Patian demon monarch's right arm was directly chopped off, and blood splattered all over the ground. He didn't even frown as he turned around and threw a punch. This punch was absolutely domineering. Zhou Xuanji could only feel the wind from the punch coming at him. He instinctively blocked with his swords, but he was still sent flying. This fellow is so strong. It's even stronger than the lion from before. Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart, and his eyes turned fierce. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 248. Patian demon monarch's right shoulder trembled and his right arm grew back, as if he had never lost an arm. He savagely laughed as he looked at Zhou Xuanji, as if he was looking at prey. Shurho demon sovereign also came behind Zhou Xuanji, and the two demons surrounded him from the front and back. The other demons flooded over, and there were even many flying demons circling in the air. Boom! 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 Bolts of lightning continuously blasted down, landing on Zhou Xuanji's body. His rui purple cloud robe continuously trembled, and it seemed to be on the verge of shattering. Zhou Xuanji twisted his neck as the lightning tempered his body. The pain was indescribable. However, he had to endure it. Once he broke through to the spirit refinement stage, the demons around him would not be much of a threat. Stinking brat, just who are you? Challenging us with astral projection cultivation is not something that can be explained by talent. Patian demon monarch looked at Zhou Xuanji as he asked. All of the demons looked at him like tigers watching their prey, their eyes filled with wariness. This fellow was simply too terrifying. True dragons were existences that countered all demons in the world. A long time ago, all creatures revered the dragon race as gods, and the suppression of their bloodlines caused their souls to tremble. Who am I? Zhou Xuanji tilted his head and smiled as he asked, his expression incredibly cold. Divine lightning continuously blasted down on his body, but he did not move at all. However, all of the Hanin divine sex cultivators felt incredibly worried for him. Could Zhou Xuanji win in such a situation? It seemed that he could not even deal with a 9th-rank great demon. Revered teacher, let's act. Su Xianxian lightly bit her lip as she said to Zhang Lanya. Zhang Lanya shook her head and said, with the heavenly tribulation here, if we rashly join in, we will only suffer more casualties. Moreover, we don't know if there are other great demons lurking around. She did not dare to take the risk. Let him fight by himself. Xian Xianghua's voice suddenly sounded out as she and Nan Ruyun appeared behind them. Su Xianxian and Zhang Lanya hurriedly half-knelt and paid their respects to the two of them. Xian Xianghua's gaze turned towards the battlefield. She only had Zhou Xuanji in her eyes. What is it? Why don't you tell me? Shurho demon venerable cursed. His roar resounded throughout the world, causing the rubble and the ruins to tremble. Patian demon monarch raised his fists and prepared to attack. In their eyes, Zhou Xuanji was already a dead man, so they wanted to find out who this fellow was. If Zhou Xuanji's identity was special and would attract a lot of trouble, they had to make preparations in advance. The lightning became more and more ferocious, as if it would not stop until Zhou Xuanji was smashed into smithereens. Zhou Xuanji looked up at Patian demon monarch and smirked. I am the Sword Emperor of this era. He laughed loudly. All of the divine swords descended from the sky like torrential rain, piercing into the earth and surrounding him in several circles. Bang! A terrifying impact swept across the ground, forcing Patian Demon Monarch and Shurho Demon Lord to slide backwards, while the other demons were sent flying. Screams filled the air, interweaving with the sound of thunder. Zhou Xuanji directly used the 10,000 sword dragon incantation, and all of his legendary swords were surrounded by dragon-shaped sword chi. 10,000 everlasting steps. He held the two swords in his hands and turned into a streak of rainbow light that pierced through the Patian demonic monarch. Patian demon monarch's eyes widened, and he subconsciously looked at his chest. A bloody hole had appeared on his chest, and one could vaguely see his white bones. My demonic energy, he mumbled to himself, his tone filled with shock. That sword had absorbed a lot of his demonic energy, which made his hair stand on end. At that moment, Shurho Demon Lord leaped over his head and slashed down with his saber. Zhou Xuanji bent his legs and used the 8-step sword lunge, dodging the strike. Rumble, as this saber slashed down, saber chi swept out for thousands of meters, creating a massive canyon that was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Patian Demon Monarch came back to his senses and continued to charge at Zhou Xuanji. This time, he was much more cautious to avoid having his demonic energy absorbed by Zhou Xuanji. With 2 9th-rank demonic energies, Zhou Xuanji's strength was not enough, so he could only rely on his speed. He continuously used the 8-step sword lunge and 10,000 ultimate steps, and with the help of dozens of legendary swords, he was evenly matched with the two demons. The other demons surrounded them and did not dare to rush up, but they did not dare to retreat either. In the distance, Jiang Shue's heart was burning with anxiety, and Xiao Jinghong and the others were also extremely anxious. Daoya Old Man's expression was serious as he said softly, "They've become stronger." Shurho Demon Lord and Patian Demon Monarch were both in the Northern Wilderness top 100. It was more than twice as powerful as what he had seen before. Ning Zifeng gripped his sword and asked in a deep voice, "Do you need my support?" The second-generation disciples didn't dare to make a sound. Their foreheads were dripping with cold sweat. Although they couldn't see the battle in the distance, the sounds of explosions and thunder were shocking to their eyes. It was hard to imagine how Zhou Xuanji withstood such an attack. "Trust him." Daoya Old Man raised his hand and said. He also had Zhang Lanya's concerns. What if there were still great demons hiding? He could only wait for Zhou Xuanji to break through. He believed that as long as Zhou Xuanji successfully broke through, he would be able to turn the situation around. A look of anticipation appeared on Zhang Quanglan's face. He hoped that the demon race could kill Zhou Xuanji. Boom! 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 Bolts of lightning struck down one after another, faster and faster. Towards the end, 3 bolts of lightning would strike down in 1 second. Countless demons were turned into ashes, and Zhou Xuanji weaved through the demon army with his legendary sword. Patian Demon Monarch and Shurho Demon Monarch chased after him relentlessly. Unfortunately, Patian Demon Monarch's movement technique was mysterious, making it difficult to catch him. "Get out of the way." Shurho Demon Monarch furiously cursed. These dogs could not do anything at all. Were they not afraid of death? The demons were so frightened that they all retreated. In actuality, they had long since wanted to retreat, but without the two demons' orders, who dared to do so? At the same time, Zhou Xuanji felt the spirit energy in his body rapidly increase. His astral spirit was going through a transformation. He was about to break through to the spirit refinement stage. Heaven's jealousy must be killed. At that moment, a majestic roar sounded out from the sky, causing all humans and demons to look up in shock. Thunderclouds parted, and a majestic divine figure formed from lightning appeared. Looking at its silhouette, it was a war god holding a halberd. He looked down at the world, and his eyes gave off 2 powerful rays of light that were as dazzling as the sun. War god evil slaying tribulation. Patian Demon Monarch cried out and hurriedly retreated, distancing himself from Zhou Xuanji. Shurho Demon Monarch was also given a big fright and also retreated. Zhou Xuanji looked up and tightly frowned. Facing the lightning war god, he could sense the aura of death. War god evil-slaying tribulation. This boy, Xian Xianghua frowned, a look of worry in her eyes. Zhang Lanya and Nan Ruyun were dumbfounded, looking shocked. Far away. How can it be? Daoya old man cried out in shock. Oh no. The others were shocked. The lightning war god looked like an invincible being. The mighty heavenly might made everyone want to kneel and worship him. War god evil-slaying tribulation. This is an ascension tribulation. Ning Zifeng stared fixedly at the lightning war god and mumbled with gritted teeth. His words made Jiang Shui's face pale. Ascension tribulation. Since ancient times, many powerhouses had died during the ascension tribulation. Moreover, Zhou Xuanji only had astral projection cultivation. Calm. Wonderful book house, you're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.